The Tape Never Lies Network.
The tape never lies. Tape never lies.
Starts now.
Tape never lies.
The tape.
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
Keeping it 100.
Keep it 100.
So chase greatness and start understanding that he's gonna make everybody better.
Tape never lies.
I don't want to see your tape breakdowns if you cannot show me things that are negative about a guy that's on your current team.
Hashtag chase greatness. Hashtag take that.
Keep it 100.
Because I'll make this one more time clear. Caden Whitlow, got it.
Keeping it 100.
He is the best quarterback I have ever scouted on tape.
The Chicago Bears select.
Guess who's back? The two dudes that kept it real. Dynamic duo that you love, the smartest man at Dr. Phil. Breaking down the film, never a problem, kick it straight. Most shows focus on stats, we focus on the tape. We keep it in 100, never running east or west. We coming with that truth, cause that's what our fans expect. Cut off the fake and anger, moving forward to be free. But don't you worry, Shane's got the dumbest tweets. It ain't no secret, Phil and Shane got some haters. But now them out stuck like the Jew and now and laters. Debaters, straws get kicked like Coach Tabor. Cuts had to be made, we added a barber moderator. Up and down, boys got you double checking. Sad sacks strolling like a fool drunk texting. Flexing on the truth cause you know they'll never change. Real, recognize real, that's what you get with Phil and Shane.
Give me some fucking names. Wait, 2 fucking games?
Fuck a play or a captain, all of the unfair. The tape never lies, the truth you see. We laugh, we lie, so there's no babies like Maybelline. Straight to the truth with acumen and facts. We got a stat nerd, but he's not just giving nerd stats. Car crash, big impact like trip sack. Every Wednesday night you got the smartest damn Phil back. Now we know you're smiling like a fat kid with fun dip. We're back better than ever and we keeping it 100.
Keep it 100.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man.
100.
Keeping it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest
Keeping
man.
it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Keep it 100.
Keeping it 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Keepin' It 100 on the best four-letter network on the planet. The tape never lies. I'm Ivan Vargas. As always, like, share, subscribe, become a patron today if you haven't. You've been missing all the draft mob coverage. Great stuff that we have for you guys, for you patrons out there. Everybody that's a patron knows it. It's been some fun stuff. We're just short of T-minus 1 week away from the NFL draft. A lot of smoke screens are coming about, a lot of rumors. Look at all these rumors, murmuring has been going on, but I don't know. I don't buy some of the hype. I don't buy some of the smoke with some of the rumors. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but let me go ahead and bring the guys out. Shane, the smartest man, and DDP, Draft Dr. Phil. What's up, boys?
Yo.
Ivan and I are both in bad moods.
Yeah, this fucking team, man. Not the Bears.
Well.
Not the Bears.
Yeah.
Only the Bulls.
Not the Bears. Right.
Only the Bulls.
Breaking Bears news a little bit, though.
Breaking Bears news.
TJ Edwards. Yeah. So must be the Bears don't think that they lost their best linebacker. Right? Isn't that how that goes?
Breaking news. The tape never lies. Network breaking News.
Going to tell you, shit in your hat and get the hell off the field.
Tell him, coach. Tell him.
Yes, the Chicago Bears have extended middle linebacker TJ Edwards.
Not middle linebacker, but
Inside backer?
maybe someplace. He's the will.
No, he's in the middle.
TJ?
85% nickel.
Yeah, but
Well, Will, Sam.
Linebacker. He plays
They
linebacker.
might,
Yeah,
not,
plays
they might have, they
Linebacker.
might have a new Mike linebacker.
We'll
They love
see.
him. TJ Edwards extended.
Yep, 2
I'm
years,
happy
20
about it.
million.
I'm happy about it. Well deserved.
Got him for the
You
next 3
pay-
years.
You pay the guys that perform, and TJ Edwards
Yep.
has been performing.
That's right.
Emergency podcast. TJ Edwards.
Yes.
Tell him,
Got it.
Angelo.
Got a gig. And you got another extension chain. Tyler Gordon. We haven't gone live.
That was the one.
We didn't
That
have
was
the emergency podcast for that.
I thought maybe TJ might get done this fall or right after camp was breaking, but they're locking him up. They're locking him up.
Dennis
Cubs are-
Allen
Oh,
likes what he sees. He's picking out his.
Yeah.
They're watching tape, not highlights with Pat. They're watching tape,
Duval.
and they're coming up with reasoning. They're not worried about short arms.
Yeah.
They actually watch college tape, break it down, come from that area. They don't have 11 producers doing all the research for them and then spitting out what it is that they're going to say. Oh, I'm talking about this network. We do all the work and then show you that in front of it. And there's nowhere to hide. So when I say
We're
Amari
always
Hampton
here.
is probably the most overrated player in this draft,
You said
I
that
could
who
be
is?
wrong because Membu could take that spot.
Oh yeah.
But those two players seem to be way highly touted where they shouldn't be, Shane.
Well, on
I'm
earlier
thinking
with
in-
our guy Rank,
Yeah.
Chad Reuter,
Oh,
right?
no.
However you, he said that Membu was the best finisher to him on tape, and I'm like, that's
That was
exactly
like-
what I thought he was extremely poor at. But I guess I don't know.
Let me, I can point you down below or next to Ivan. It says, become a patron, thetapeneverlies.com. There's a show strictly on Membu where the tape is so disheartening because I'm just going to explain this. When someone is a finisher, you can tell that they love the game of football, especially on the offensive line. There's a certain level of aggressiveness and finishing that happens, and it's never questioned. Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Ariante Ursery, Josh Connolly, all of these guys check that box. The one guy that doesn't, that might have the most talent as far as God-given, lacks any kind of finish. When he is in a good set and he has his man in the position where he's won, then he'll finish. But God forbid he has to work extra. And that's where these teams and these scouts and these media people continue to regurgitate this shit and sell you a false lie. Like any TTNL patron, even the biggest Membu guy, went into that show with Coach Phil, Coach O, Big Steve Edwards, Shane, and watched that tape and then saw Ivan pop in because Ivan was watching it and got so pissed off.
Well, I cut the fucking. Oh no, you cut it. But like cutting tape and then seeing like comparisons from other old tackles. It was frustrating hearing that. You see
Tell
the guy.
Greg Gabriel, the only blue piece
Right.
on Membu, would be a hall pass in high school if it was blue.
Right. And I'm not
There's
taking
nothing.
away the guy's
He's
athleticism,
scared.
and I'm not saying that he can't be an NFL player. It's just that
Oh, 100%. He's
see-
gonna be in the NFL.
you instantly see people jump up like out of their seats and be like, oh my God, that's the next whatever. It's like, hey man, just watch what he did in college. Watch how why isn't he a left tackle? Why isn't he a left tackle? Like if you have all that athleticism, what is there a senior pushing you out? Like there's no way you have all that talent.
Not at Mizzou.
Yeah,
Not at
right.
Not at
Like
Mizzou. there's
I
not.
don't understand it. Like there has to be something that we're not seeing.
I know what
but-
I see, and I've been trained in this and love this game. I will sit down with anybody. I know nobody in football that's coaching offensive line. Truthfully, I can listen. I'm not bashing anybody, but if Brian Baldinger goes out there and shows you 2 plays in their highlights, you think this guy's a fucking stud beyond. He's the next freaking Larry Allen.
Well, Phil, we've known that for years. That's what
But you're
that's what
constantly
happens
saying
with
you
fans.
You have to
And-
constantly educate
Right.
a fan base.
99% of the people that watch the NFL, I don't want to say 99%, let's just say 85% of people that watch the NFL Combine have never watched a single rep of a wide receiver. And then if they run a 4-3-2, they're number 1 for them
100%.
in the draft just because they're fast. See it all the time.
Well, I was coaching out tonight real quick because I don't want to keep our guests waiting any longer. I know he's enjoying the shrimp and the filet we got in the green room, but I want to make sure we get him out here. But I was coaching all these young high school kids tonight. We had a clinic, and I was showing them. And then I go, guys, bring it in as we wrap. Who's the best running back in this coming draft? And a bunch of the kids are like, Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty. I see you, sir. And I'm like, that's good. Who's the best pass rusher in the draft? Abdul Carter. Who's the best tackle in the draft? Armand Membu, some kid said. Have you ever seen Missouri play? I go to the kid. He goes, no. I go, have you seen Membu play? No, I just see his highlight. I mean, they're talking about, and that is the problem. And to a kid and to the dads that were standing there, every single one, I can't watch ESPN anymore. It's terrible. It's regurgitated bullshit, headline, debate, fighting,
LeBron
flip-flopping daily.
It's like LeBron, Stephen A, and then during football season you'll get football, but you'll also get your daily interjection of LeBron and Stephen A. I mean, that's pretty much what I think ESPN has become.
I get fired up with it because I'm grinding the freaking tape for real. And you know what? I do it live in front of you. So there's nowhere to hide for it. That's what this guy does that we're going to bring out here. And if you're not familiar with him, obviously, if you go into any of our shows, we have promoted his rookie scouting portfolio, which is the thesaurus, the dictionary, the encyclopedia.
It's the fucking Bible.
It,
It's the Bible.
it's like, you know where the wall is, that 2-mile wall in Antarctica? It's the secret city they have behind there.
Did you just totally fucking make that up? The 2-mile
There's a
wall?
wall. There's a wall. Watch it.
The Great
Behind
Wall
there,
of
it's
Antarctica.
all the secrets. People care.
That wasn't me.
That was the dumbest drop since Jackal was here. It's all the secrets to the draft in such detail. And if you were paying attention, the behind the wall cities and things that they're hiding from us, this guy does not hide anything.
So
in the
real
draft.
quick, while we're on this fucking
Yes.
special talk here, what cities
Not
are
smart.
what cities are behind the wall in Antarctica?
They're on,
Like-
they're not talked about.
Is that the Frozen Palace soccer team and
Listen,
all of those?
we will go through this journey
Oh,
Let's
it's
just
it's
let's just stick to tape. Let's not stick to
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
geography.
yeah.
here.
Let's go. Let's get to football.
You've never seen the wall at the frozen wall?
The only
I didn't
wall
know
I
it was
know
two-
is Pink
Yeah.
Floyd. That's it,
Yeah.
and the one
Right.
down south. That's
Is it
pretty
2
much all.
miles? Is it
It,
2 miles?
it's very long. Yeah, it's beyond 2 miles. I don't know how high it is though.
Jeepers creepers.
You ever flown over Antarctica?
Yeah, I
Why-
did actually. and
No,
do
you
know-
didn't. They don't
I
let
did.
anybody there. So
When
there
I
you go.
yeah,
Been to the top of your fucking class.
it was a secret mission, and this was my reaction right here.
Oh my fucking God.
That's what I said when I flew over Antarctica right there.
All right.
Do you- Oh God! Tell me my internet's not going with the Antarctica talk. Here we go. Let's bring them out the way we do. The rookie scouting portfolio. You know him. I know him. The draft guru, Matt Waldman.
Well, it's that time of year again, Bears fans. And our favorite guy, he's back. Once we flipped the calendar, there was only one man for us to call to help us kick off our NFL draft coverage. The rookie scouting portfolio creator
Give me some fucking names.
has set it all up to help get you prepared. You won't find another more comprehensive NFL draft guide out there. Bears fans, TTNL fans, you are now on the clock. And with the first pick of the NFL draft, TTNL Network selects
Tape Never Lies, keeping it 100.
Matt Waldman.
There he is on the base.
I just gotta say, I just, you know, you had me in this green room. I've been eating the shrimp. I've been the fillet. I had the brownie. Was that a brownie? I had a couple of brownies. I think
Phil ate 3 of those before
and,
his.
and I don't
Antarctica
think that was sugar that I snorted either. And then I started hearing about cities behind the wall in Antarctica.
There it
Wait
is.
till the brownies start kicking in.
Yeah,
There's the wall right there.
I need them as a Browns fan. That's the only brownies that seem to work pretty well. So
If we draft Kelvin Banks, we will have the frozen wall in,
Yeah, let's
in
hope so.
Chicago.
that'll work.
That'll work for us, Matt. That'll work.
Yes. A little
5
more
linemen.
geography.
Imagine that. When's the last time the Bears had 5 offensive linemen that you could say, hey, they're all pretty damn good linemen?
2006?
Did we win?
Almost.
Yeah, we went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think line is very important. So all these guys that get all hyped up and amped up about
Phil, why draft offensive and defensive linemen when you can take a fucking tight end at 10? You know?
Yeah, might be the worst. I'm glad you started there, and that's where we're going to start this off with the quote for Matt Waldman, because I'm with Matt, and so is Shane. But I think you could speak on it, Matt. We'll start there. A lot of talk leading up to the draft has been actually they're covering every base with the Chicago Bears and the media department. We've been drafting Genty, Tyler Warren, Membu, a safety from Texas, then Amarian Hampton at 10. I would quit being a Bears fan if that happened.
Oh, I'm moving to Antarctica if they take Hampton at fucking 10.
But Tyler Warren, we start there. He's your number 5 tight end in this draft. Why is he being pushed up so highly? And why is he not what they're saying he is to you?
So first of all, I saw the announcement for the show, and I had a good laugh because I started thinking about. I said, why is he so low? And I kept thinking, well, his score is still pretty darn good for where I have him. And then I was, I got on my, I got my ire up a little bit, and then I realized it was y'all, and I just started laughing. And I was thinking, yeah, that's a good attention getting thing, and that's what you need to do when you do these shows. But I was going to come on here and say this with all the affection in the world. There's this great restaurant in Atlanta called Slutty Vegan. You guys are slutty football for that.
I didn't make that thumbnail.
Yeah, no, it's all right. But it begs the question, because people look at rankings and they see a guy that everybody says is a consensus number 1 or close to it, and I have him number 5. So what gives? I think the real answer here is that I'm not scouting for a specific team. I'm scouting for a bunch of teams. So where the pre-draft, I don't listen to all that. I'm trying to follow around some beat reporter or a GM or scouts and try and get whatever crumbs I can get to figure out where they might go and match a modicum of talent with that and try and guess. I just say, fuck that. I'm going to do unvarnished talent first. And then when the bus gets to, to time for the draft and everybody gets let off and knows where they're going to go, and what team, then I do that analysis. Why am I going to fuck up all the, talent evaluation with trying to guess what people are going to do and make myself look good according to what people think is going to do? I can fuck that up all by myself, just doing my own evaluations. I don't need to add that shit in there. So, with Warren, just from a standpoint of what he can do, he has some gaps in his game that are different from guys that I have at the top. Like Holston Loveland and Mason Taylor, to me, offer more to more teams and at greater depth. So it's one of those deals where, if you take Tyler Warren and you put him in an offense that is specifically geared to what he does best and minimize what he doesn't quite do well yet, then he could be a good first-year contributor for a team. He may not be a starter right away or like give you starter caliber production in every facet of the game, but if you put him in the offense with certain packages, he can be effective, and you might go, wow, this guy's really promising. But those things that he's got to work on, well, blocking. Like I don't get what people are seeing with him as a blocker, other than that they're just looking at maybe success rate. I don't count success rate because we're projecting to the NFL, folks. Omarion Hampton is a good example of a guy who has a high pass protection success rate, but that's because he's facing mostly defenders who, when he drops his head down before he sets, and most of those defenders don't have the hands and the wherewithal to swim over him, grab him by the pads, and throw him to the ground and ole him just on the way to the quarterback or dip away. They're not as skilled. Everyone is that skilled in the NFL. So when they, so success rates are a nice layer of information, but you need to have the skills and techniques. Is he consistently doing these things that in the NFL defenders don't counter so easily? Are you making mistakes that defenders are going to capitalize consistently because your technique's lacking? Hampton does that. And then when we go back to Warren's a hugger. He's not a puncher. When you watch these lead blocks and winding back and working, off the line of scrimmage, he's dangerously close to holding people, at least depending on, whether or not the officials got cataract surgery the week before or not, but it's one of those things that he's got to fix, and he's got the physicality to do it. It's just that he hasn't done it yet. So there's work to be done there in that game. And then when you watch him as a receiver, I mean, very good at the catch point, very jump balls. Jump balls. And he's like the Gesicki type of receiver, where it's like when it comes to the ball in his hands and making dramatic movements and quickness and things like that, even though he may look like a great athlete, he kind of runs in concrete when it comes to that. But when you get him in an area where he can lean towards the ball and extend and use his length from a standstill position or in the ball in the air, he adjusts really well. But to me, he's more like a combination of like Tyler Kraft and Michael Mayer, if you kind of put them together. Michael Mayer was great in zone coverage. He's great in compressed areas of the field against man because he can win tight coverage targets. But you're not lining them up like Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, Sam Laporta, or anybody, who can win one-on-one like that. And then he's no Rob Gronkowski. He's not Pat Freiermuth. Like of the Penn State tight ends I've seen, I'd take Pat Freiermuth every time of the guys that I've seen in the past 6 to 8 years in terms of somebody who can do a little bit of both. Doesn't mean that Warren is a fraud or bad. It's just he's not worth that early round of a pick because you need an instant impact starter. He's not Brock Bowers.
No,
listen, I know
not even fucking close to Brock Bowers.
Yeah, Brock Bowers is a whole other category. He was the one guy I said he's the guy that if Sam Laporta was going to knock on the door to break Ditka's rookie record, Bowers was the guy who was going to just kick it in at that point.
Yeah,
and he did. And it's like, but he can't block as a sixth offensive lineman. He's more of an H-back. So, but what he does have is that overpowering athletic ability to be a mismatch for anybody. Cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers.
Bowers, you're talking.
Yeah, Bowers.
Yeah.
Warren isn't that.
That's why you should have taken him with the over Dunze because of matchups. That's where I was last year, Matt.
Yeah.
So where you're talking 10th pick, Chicago Bears with this stuff with Ben Johnson's offense. This isn't a twitchy athlete. This is a bully with the ball, but doesn't have that mismatch athleticism, nor does he have the ability to break away and make big plays where you're looking at 10th overall. This guy, to me, if I'm, disregard all the blocking, just him as an athlete, I think he's good with the football in his hand, right? Yeah. But as far as separating at the stem, being twitchy.
Right there, Phil, I've had so many people text me, send me DMs, asking me how I could be against Tyler Warren at 10, and I ask them all the same question. You tell me listen, if you're going in the top 10 of the NFL draft, and I understand this isn't the best draft up top, I get it. But still, when you're going top 10, especially at tight end, there has to be something that you're like, holy shit, that is a massive separator. And tell me what that is with Tyler Warren, because I have not seen it yet.
Fannin Jr. is a better tight end than Tyler Warren.
And Ben Johnson knows exactly what to do with him because he's the same exact player as who he had before.
And that's where me and you agree. I have Fannin as my number one tight end. I just said, you know what? Enough the dude is blocking everybody to the whistle with effort.
Yeah,
and technique. He might not be a dominator, but he's got great technique. And then with the ball in his hands, he's twitchy and separate. Laporta is the perfect comp for Harold Fannin Jr. And you said something on our patron show, and it just, I don't know, this year more so than ever, maybe it's just the loudness that everybody's an expert now and everybody's regurgitating what they see on ESPN. It bothers me, but you had talked about how you're able to kind of ride the ocean sea with all of this narrative I don't know how comfortable you are with if I use names, but we'll say reporters nationally saying these things, and then it becomes the staple course of the meal.
Producers suck. Not you guys, not your producer,
Sorry,
but sorry, my man. But like some of these producers, and some of the content leads, they want to take experts at what they do. When you think about how someone gets a gig at some of these higher profile places, they're usually doing stuff that got their name to stand out. They did something excellent or special on some level. And then they get there and they're asked to do things that anyone who's decent enough to get there could do. High-end SEO, clickbaitable, quick views, things, soundbite type of stuff. And that may not be them. That's not what got them there, but that's what they got to do to stay there because their contracts aren't guaranteed. They're on a year-to-year basis, 1 to 2 years. And this is what the people who actually have the long-term contracts, who make the decisions and dictate what they want these people to cover, what they want them to do, because they think that gets the instant ratings. And it does work well for the big box media outlets. But then you've got people who legitimately are good at what they do, but they're asked to do this kind of stuff, and that's right, Bill. It's just, they keep feeding it like that. And some of these guys are good, but now they've signed in, they thought they were getting the big time and they're going to change things. And then they get there and realize, oh, it's a shit show all over again.
Yep.
And I'm not getting to do what I want to do, but now the money's good. And I don't know, I got the notoriety and maybe I'll get more opportunity down the line. And I just hope I can continue to keep this job right here. And they mortgaged what they could do on their own for an opportunity to have a big audience and a big payday, and I'm not saying they sold their soul. Some people may have, I don't know, but they unwittingly did that. And part of what happens is that, it's important still though. Like these folks who, like Chad Ryder's one of my good friends. So he, and we're going to all disagree on players. So it's not
exactly.
like one day, he called me up one day and he goes, so you really did it, didn't you? He's like, you really put Skylar Thompson that high in 2022. He's like, I didn't see it, but like we have those conversations and then we'll look at each other and spend 20 minutes talking about how much we both like Mario Anderson out of Memphis. But
former Bear.
Former Bear. There you go. Or Mario Anderson Jr., the Memphis running back. Yeah.
All right.
We might talk about later. But yeah, he's when you look at what those guys do, some of them really do watch tape, but they have to study so many players. It's impossible to really dive deep. And then they're reporting. Yeah. They're there to report on what the NFL is looking at and trying to combine both, like I said earlier. Yeah. And so it's a worthwhile layer, but fans got to realize that it's broad with very little depth.
Yep. And this is what I said to Phil. Phil and I talk about this a lot. And it's, I'll just use TTNL as an example. Phil, Ivan, and I can all watch the same tape of the same exact player, the same cut-ups, and have 3 wildly different outcomes. And that's like when I was talking about Chad there, I'm like, how? Like my number one thing was Membu, and Phil pointed it out live on tape when we first started breaking him down, is the finish. Just didn't see it. And then like with Chad tonight, he was like, he's such a good finisher. And I'm like,
right.
For a split second, you're like, what am I not seeing?
Right.
That's
I have a ton of respect
to me that he's not watching correctly or doesn't know. I don't believe that. I want to push back on you because I don't ever think you, me, or Ivan watching the same team have been that far off. We could. I like this guy better. Give me one example. I don't know one that we're like, no fucking way, dude.
Well, because I mean, there's been over the years.
There's been guys like that don't know football.
Yeah.
That you're like, what are you fucking seeing? Like,
but you get my overall point, Phil. What I'm saying is
I'm just
like
I think the other way. I've never liked Matt Waldman, for example. You like I won't say love, you like Jalen Milroe.
Right.
I see why. Right? I can watch it. I think you're right. I think Shane's wrong, right? We're wildly different.
Well,
he watches it all the time.
Let's not pretend like I don't have some bias.
But a good example of that is this. The reason you may buy into it or have the opportunity to is you invite me on shows where I can talk for 3 fucking hours about them, and I can go into detail, and people who buy my work do that. But if I have to do anything on, whenever I've had to do anything on NFL.com or on a radio show or on any type of thing that's a bigger network,
usually
I've
3
got
minutes.
I've got 3 minutes, and I've pretty much blown it on one question if I do it that way. So they know that too. And and at the same time, I look at like Lance Zierlein. I mean, his dad was the O-line coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers who went to the Super Bowl. He learned from his dad about O-line play. I've had him on my shows and watched and learned things from him about O-line play. But for the life of me, when he says Tyler Warren's a good blocker, I'm literally going, I didn't see it. And I'm using some of the same very things that I learned back in the day watching tape with Lance when I had him on my show. When I, because I don't study alignment. But sometimes that stuff happens. And I also have to think that when you're watching 800 people, that's hard, and I think that's part of the deal. And you're going to miss things from time to time. And and sometimes you just have wild misses, and it's easy for us when we look at it to go in that direction and go, wow, I don't know what that person's saying. And I just leave it at that most of the time now, because it's kind of like, I don't really care. I don't know what Lance's process is either. I just know that I've seen him identify good things and bad things from blockers in the past, and so I know that he knows something, and I know that he watches the game, but I also trust my own process, because if I follow what he does and he gets it wrong, I don't know why he got it wrong.
That's probably the best point that you can make, Matt. And Phil, you and I have another thing that we have talked about is public pressure with some of these guys. Like, listen, if you and Phil were on the same, like you and Phil like Milroe more than I do, that's not going to change my analysis.
Exactly.
But there's people out there that will change with public and pressure.
And I went through that early on. I mean, I had because first of all, I never played the game at a high level or even at a medium level or even probably at a low level, unless you count me like
you were super good at Madden though, Waldman.
I was okay at Madden maybe, but I was good in the backyard or in the high school practice field against our linebackers. In tackle football without pads, but that was about it. So but at that thing is when you try and get into something like this, everybody's like, well, you've never scouted, you've never really played, you've never coached, what do you know? So there's pressure. I remember the first time I watched the first RSP I did 20 years ago was I watched this guy named Mike Bell. He was a running back out of Arizona, and I had him rated, I think, among my top 5 or 6 backs that year. And I just was starting, and it's very different. The RSP then looks very different than what it is now. The backbone of the process is the same, and it helped me get to where I am. But when I saw that he didn't get drafted, I was like, well, what the fuck do I know? I'm sitting here trying to learn how to do this. And I think I have a good process to get there, but I've got some time. But then, I remember thinking nobody really, he's not really highly rated, but I like him. So I'm going to stick with that. I mean, I got to learn. And then he gets undrafted, but then he ends up starting for the Broncos in his rookie year. And then you start to go, okay, well, maybe I need to keep following the path. But every year, you're always going to feel that. Even whether, I've got friends like Sigmund Bloom, who has me on his show at Football Guys and goes, you just really don't give a fuck what people think of you, do you? And the answer is I do, but I can't let it run what I do, because what's more valuable? Someone calling me an idiot in Cleveland because I like Nick Chubb over Saquon Barkley, and he has 9,000 or 10,000 followers and tells people he can't respect me. And I say, I can say, well, if you want to watch some tape with me, we can do that. And he's like, nah, I just can't respect anybody who would even think that, even if you offered. And, by midseason, he's like, I owe this dude an apology, and I'm going to be a subscriber for life. So now I realize, and you learn that, and you start to see that often enough. But I remember Darren McFadden not liking him or liking certain guys way more. And you're always going to hear about that stuff. But if you really worry what people think about you when you're trying to learn about a game and trying to get better all the time, somebody who you have no idea where they're coming from. It could be, IS 345 dash dot dot at wherever. It could be, the ghost of George Hallis. Okay. And he could probably know more football in his pinky than I will ever learn. But I don't know that. It also could be someone who is on NFL.com or played safety for the New York Giants who says Nick Chubb doesn't look like anything worthwhile to me after one preseason game, and go, well, that's why you're a former cornerback and why I'm a draft analyst who does what I do for the past 20 years. I don't say that out loud. I mean, I say it out loud, but I don't say it online because I don't need to antagonize anybody about that. The point of the matter is that if you're trying to learn football, you've got to have your own compass and your own path. And when you're wrong, it's fine. You learn faster because you know what you did or didn't do, as opposed to worrying what other people do. I just know sometimes, though, I'll look at players and I'll go, oh, yeah, Taj Brooks or Andrew Armstrong or Kelly Akiri. And I look at my rankings and I go, yeah, I'm going to hear about that, or, that's going to happen. But people who you want an audience of people who get you, and you guys have that, and your audience has been that way with me, which I really appreciate, and why I love, having you guys on, is because you get it, your audience gets it. I'm just trying to show you why I think what I do, and I want people to be able to go, yeah, that makes sense. I may not agree with it, but it makes sense. Or I don't see it like you, but I see why you laid it out the way you did. I just don't value some of these things as much or differently. And that's how it works. And my audience that I've cultivated, just like you, I think mostly understands that. So when you fuck up and get something wrong, they're going to ask you about it because they want to know what you think you've learned or what, if you've identified anything yet. But, that's just part of it, and it's like, there was somebody who went online on X, I think Adam Levitan, who, is more of a modeling statistic type of guy, talking about, I don't envy these draft film guys who do this because, he went through all these points, but the main point he had was that it's just, they tell you don't know ball when you have varying opinions. And I almost I didn't write him because I didn't even want to, but I wanted to write back and just say, well, that's the first step to being called an idiot. Not knowing ball is the first step for people being lifetime subscribers to my work, and usually if you lay out your work like you guys do, the same thing happens. Some people probably think you all are idiots with certain things. And then they look back and go, wow, I had no clue, and if you're going to, and with the way big draft is, if you have an informed point of view that's knowledgeable and detailed, you're probably going to be different than the herd of people who are just trying to look good for the teacher, whoever that they think that teacher is, which is the nameless producer, or with the big pockets, who says, conform to my SEO and give me sleepers, at every turn, or LeBron, I guess is what I was hearing your producer talking about there, and that's, that's what they're fed.
That's another thing too that always gets me too, Matt, is like, you can have Mason Taylor as your second tight end, and a Mason Taylor or an LSU fan is going to say, why do you think Mason sucks? You have him number 2.
Right.
That's the shit that gets me.
Yeah.
It's like the MJ LeBron debate. If you put LeBron at number 2, the LeBron fans are fucking offended. And why do you think he sucks?
Right.
I just said
he's number 2 out of 500 million players that have played basketball. I say the same thing as well. And I think this is therapy, not only for me, like a group therapy, but for the fan, and educating the fan at the same time. You call it big draft, which is really good term. And then the herding mentality. I think the herding mentality bothers me the most, because I think it's this misinformed, an agent's paying somebody to say something or somebody's scratching somebody else's back. And all of these misinformed fans that are, it's just conveniently truth, are getting it where they're not taking the extra step. And it's weird because I just had this giant firework blow off in my head when you were talking how similar we are, but different, with you breaking down via your rookie scouting portfolio book in such great detail every analytical thing based on what you're watching, where our network is saying, okay, you want to know this truth, here is Membu or whoever, Amari and Hampton. Let's watch his tape. Let's teach you football aside from what you're being told, and let's watch it, because every one of these guys, Matt, in the fall, I said, Marion Hampton, he's going to be a player, right? But then when I pull up the tape and now I'm into game 4 and the same things are happening. If it's blocked really well, he gets that crease, he can go. And that highlight will stand the test of time. But if it's blocked really well 16 times in a row and he can't break tackles and is falling down on the ground a lot, it just it ain't going to happen like that in the NFL.
I forget who it was, but somebody today talking about Shedeur Sanders made their analysis was, and it was a big time guy too, and I can't remember who it was. I'll have to go back and look. He said, if everything around him is perfect, you might have something.
Yeah, I heard this as well.
Yeah, because that always happens in the NFL.
If William Faulkner is whispering to me in my ear while I'm trying to write a novel, I might have something.
Yeah, guys, just as long as everything around him is perfect, no chaos in the NFL.
Well, then fine. You have studied it and spelled it all out for why. I said we have to show it. And thus, having you on last week showing these receivers, people walk away, and now you're better
educated. Who it was? Mel Kiper.
It was Mel Kiper. Of course it was. And the texture and tone of Kiper and these big draft talking about Shedeur Sanders, it just gives me douche shivers, because it's like, you guys are just lying to people. You clearly are friends with Dion and you're hyping it up more so than it is. If he was that great, he'd be showing that on tape and there would be a clear, let's show it. Meanwhile, we're retiring his jersey, for God's sake. That, it doesn't mesh well with me. It's like Shane said, it's so coincidental that his jersey's getting retired and he's coming up for the draft. Like,
how old are you, Phil? Just out of curiosity, I never asked you.
50.
Okay, so we're about the same age. So I was going to joke that you were entering like midlife crisis a little bit, and it's okay. Yes. I've been there too, because it's like you watch this stuff after a while and you get pissed off when you see it, but then after a while you realize, you look around at what you have. And you look around at the fans you have and the readers and the subscribers and how they communicate with you. And you go, you know what, those outfits, those big outfits, they appeal to the lowest common denominator, the widest swath of people who, and so when you think about that, I used to work in, I learned my process because I had to work in a 10,000 employee, organization that had sales and service centers for over the phone. And so I used to manage operations for that. And then I managed quality for that division for a while. And I learned my process through getting certified for that stuff. But the point of the matter is that, I remember back in the day that when I'd have to handle phone calls that were escalated and having someone tell me they hope my mom got cancer, or telling me all sorts of things, or dealing with bomb threats, or dealing with someone, messing up my car because they got fired, or all sorts of things like that. That can happen sometimes in certain environments. And at the end of the day, that's a lot like working at a big media outlet, because you got this cross section of people, and you're just trying to engage any kind of discussion, not quality discussion, just discussion. So when you actually are in an outlet where you can kind of you can set expectations reasonably and say, look, when somebody says, I download your draft guide and this is just way too much, I just wanted a listing of who to draft. I get that once every 3 years, maybe, somebody who does where that happens,
ding going on.
And it's fine. I don't get it.
Just respond to him. That's on page 1412.
Right, exactly. But you can. That's the nice part, is that I can have a sense of humor about that stuff, because I tell my readers all the time, I'm like, read this one paragraph on this email to access this update. If you don't fucking do that, then you owe me a beer and dinner. Okay. Yep. And then occasionally I fuck it up in the message. And then I'm like, okay, I got to start over. I got to give back all the, and I get emails that laugh about that. But the higher the stakes, the more broader appeal you do, then you get people who think they own you in terms of your time, or that they can just be assholes, because you invite that contingent into what you do. So in a certain
Brandon? Oh, good.
but that's the thing, so I mean, you guys have a great fan base, and you have what you have, and certain fan base and certain subscriber bases, you've catered what you want them. You've catered the type of readers and listeners that you want. And I've done the same thing. And let me tell you, I'd pay tens of thousands of dollars more if I didn't cater that, to have someone else handle emails, someone else handle issues. But when I put out the RSP, I mean, like this year, I don't get many, and I'm usually dead anyway, and brain dead anyway after I do it. And I don't want to look at anything or talk to anybody other than about football. So the fact that I get good emails, it's worth the extra money that I might have gotten on the front end, because I'd end up having to pay it on the back end and go, somebody else fucking handle this, because I'm going to lose my shit if I have to do it, if I have to deal with it this way. So there's the good and the bad with it. But I mean, the good of it is that not everyone's smart, not everyone's wise, not everyone has experience and savvy, and you found a good collection of people who have all of those things to be able to take what you have in perspective and want more of it.
I'm not smart.
And that's, I mean, it's just great thoughts on it. It kind of unravels me, because I do.
It is
get fired up from it. Go ahead.
The thing about it is, I think what separates, kind of like what Matt is talking about, and listen, I can fully admit I am probably the worst at TTNL with this. You get into the YouTube comments or whatever the morning after a show, and you tend to focus on the negative ones more so than the positive ones, and then you probably end up saying stuff that you shouldn't say. But if you just swallow hard and take 5 minutes and let it go,
what she said.
Yeah, exactly. Almost 100% of the people that are complaining and saying that you suck and you don't know how to break down football, or you're wrong about Calvin Banks or whomever, or Tyler Warren, it's because they're jealous, because there's 3 guys on the screen right now shooting the shit, talking football, and they're like, I could fucking do that.
Yep.
And those guys are, and look at, they're having fucking fun, and they get jealous of that shit. And we've been doing it for years, and Matt longer than both of us. But there's a huge jealousy factor in it.
And you're going to remember those things. I mean, I still remember on YouTube somebody saying, after Marcus Mariota's 5 touchdown game, you don't know fuck about quarterbacks in football. And I remember just writing back, I said, well, let's give him a year and see how that works out. And you have those things. And I still have people who go, oh, Hakeem Butler, you're the guy who liked Hakeem Butler so much. Yeah. That's always going to happen. That's true. And do you remember that a little bit? Sure. But do you let it wreck your game? Nah, because it's like I've learned to have kind of the memory of a cornerback, when it comes to it.
Yep.
And I've gotten to be a pretty good cornerback in this figurative sense, I'll say.
So you shouldn't take my tact and just say, "Oh, your mother's a cunt" in the comments when they say something like that. That's normally what I do.
Hey, that's why I love you guys, but
he says that. I don't say. Just get him a T-shirt with it.
I usually, I've become known on X as the guy that never takes the bait, but when I do, there's a grease spot. At the at the other end of the line from somebody who said something, and that's generally has been the case. But it's usually I just try and be funny about it. Things like people are like, "Oh, well, nice, that's easy. That's nice analysis coming from your mom's basement." And
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Like, I said, yeah. I said it's great here. I said I have a great view. And all of what I'm doing here is I'm paying for my mom's house right now.
Yeah.
So
be thankful mom has Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah. I'm paying for everything right now. So it's all good. I just ask her to bring me some more Cheetos downstairs every once in a while.
And like this right here. Hendrix put it up. Yeah. And everybody knows I've never hidden it ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
How else do you learn?
Yeah,
How else do you learn? And then there's some guys that people will bring up and go, "Oh, I remember you like this guy," and you go, "Damn straight," and I still do, and I know everyone thinks I'm nuts about it, but I don't care because if he got an opportunity, I still believe.
Could I make a case that if Deshaun Kaiser didn't get drafted by Cleveland in that mess, that maybe he would have worked out? Maybe.
Yeah.
He didn't work out, even though he got traded to Green Bay. But yeah, listen, we all have epic.
If Chad Kelly was in a better way in his life, we could be talking about him. Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl.
I will go. At my last breath. My last breath after I say all the nice things I need to say to my family and friends will probably be. And Chad Kelly could have been awesome.
Yeah.
And Cedric Pierman got shafted by Gruden. But anyway,
Chad Kelly
by Jay Gruden.
This year, though, I know we did some therapy there,
but
good. I think it's worthy to bookmark that because I will return to it when I get myself out.
Can I throw one more in there, though, that I just get off my chest? And I heard it about 2 hours before showtime tonight.
Yeah.
Matt Miller was on with Waddle and Sylvie, and they were talking about Caleb Williams.
Matt Miller, from
ESPN. And he says
infamous Matt Miller.
He said, yes, the Matt Miller of Derrick Henry is a fullback, not a running back in the NFL. That Matt Miller.
Yes.
But this is what perpetuates. And listen, we all understand Caleb could have been better. Caleb needs to be better. But Matt Miller went on the airwaves and said that Caleb Williams had a horrible year and struggled all year. People hear that, and that I'm like, yes. Did he have some struggles? Yes. Was he a rookie quarterback surrounded by probably the most amount of chaos that I've seen in a while with an organization that caused all of it? Yeah.
Shane Waldron, can you at least tell him how far to drop back on some of those plays?
Exactly.
How you took the statistical CJ Stroud amazing year versus Caleb Williams, the terrible year.
Yeah.
And the numbers are identical.
Yeah, and you could say that, Caleb Williams carried a coach, an organization, and an offense filled with more holes than Swiss cheese on his back as a rookie doing it. With DJ Moore probably playing out of position, with getting hit so much that by the time he got to the second half of a game, those daring throws he made at USC, he was already getting the shit. He already had the shit kicked out of him.
DeAndre Swift is your bell cow.
Short. Yeah.
Gerald Everett is a focal piece of your game plan.
Come on. He had 2 cement blocks and he was thrown in the river and he still survived. I mean, that's like, that was exactly,
what? Yeah. He's underwater and
he's
underwater. I can't hear you.
I can't hear you, but he's still, how many touchdowns did he throw? And Yeah.
20 touchdowns,
And-
6 picks, and 3,500 yards.
And after Thomas Brown performed emergency surgery on the offense,
Yeah.
just did a mash job. It was a mash unit job that he did.
Yeah.
Was he not one of the top 5 to 6 producers over that span at quarterback?
Did he beat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which the other quarterback never did?
Yeah. This is what always makes me laugh, because when people talk about it, I'm like, okay, listen. When people ask me about what I thought about Caleb Williams, I said, I told people last year that when you draft Caleb Williams is the only quarterback in this class that you could have him dropped into an absolute shit show and still look like that there's going to be some promise left over after that horrible potential of a year. And he was the one. Jaden Daniels got the carpet rolled out for him and said, here, Jaden, we don't need you to throw downfield. Let's just throw the ball within 10 yards. Use your legs a little bit if you have to. RPO, screen game. Let's do a couple of deeper routes later where you can show off that deep arm. And look, he played great with what he was given. He did some things that were even outside of the box of that shows a lot of promise. But I'm sorry, if you put Jalen Daniels in Chicago, I don't think you would have seen what you saw from Caleb Williams. And you can show all the pictures you want of him pouting and or looking a certain way and performing, armchair psychiatry about, or psychology about all of what's going on there. But I'll just say this, he outlasted those bozos that left town, and he's gonna.
Yep.
And now they brought in a dude who actually knows how to craft a winning offense. And I'm thrilled for Bears fans because you found your quarterback, because it's he's gonna shine in a major way.
Take that fucking stamp of approval.
Clip that audio. Send that to ESPN.
If anybody disagrees with it, their mother's a cunt. I'll put it in the fucking comments tomorrow. I promise.
It's the truth, though. I think
I just need Shane like on my shoulder, like next to my shoulder, standing right next to me over here, and I can just say whatever I want.
Yep.
Shane's just going to be like,
I'll handle it.
Yeah, that's how he feels. Yeah,
he's that
that's
guy.
that's kind of how I am with my wife. Like when somebody starts talking, when my wife tells me about her jobs, I go, just give me their full name.
Yeah,
and let me know what town they live in. Just, and she's like, I'm not like, she'll walk in the door. She goes, I got to talk to you about something. And no, I'm not giving you their name, and I'm not telling you where they live.
That's what the one dude got pissed off at me about the mom stuff, and he's like, "Get off the mothers." And I said, "I'm off her. What time you want the bitch back?" You just gotta keep going.
But really, just staying on Caleb, and I think I've never seen anything like this. The reality of statistical stuff. It's not like this clown circus was hidden, and the reality of what Caleb did within this chaos should be like applauded. I know I've said this so many times on this show, and I'm not a stats guy at all. I'm showing you I'm showing our patrons what I do every Thursday after every game. The whole tape is cut, coaches' angles, all 22 to show the truth. And there's more missed assignments and blocks picked up and Caleb scrambling around. And he's not throwing turnovers. And in this shithole town, they want them to throw more turnovers.
It wasn't just Chicago. It was it was Kurt Warner. And
the problem I have is Caleb got too conservative with the ball. What he should be doing is throwing more turnovers. He should be taking more chances down.
That's how Steve McNair became an MVP eventually, was in his early years when he was being cautious with the football. That's because he just played cautious football his whole life. No, you can't win with those guys, because then you have Anthony Richardson, who's a chance taker and is a big play guy, and his receivers drop the fucking ball all over the place. But like at the same time, they look at him and go, "You've got to calm it down. You've got to make better decisions." So, and he does. I think he absolutely does. But Caleb Williams has played football right. You're managing the game right. Why are you going to tell him not to manage the game right? There's times that you take chances, but if they were in ball games, they were in ball games that he shouldn't have been, and some of those chances
Put him in positions to win.
Yes,
Matt.
yes. Some of those
Washington.
Yeah, exactly.
Hail Mary.
That's the game I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But there's other
Thanksgiving.
games. Yeah,
Detroit.
yeah.
Detroit.
Time out. What?
Yeah.
Time out.
Coach.
What?
Yeah. And there's certain throws he did make in the second half that were big play throws that he just missed by a little bit. And from what I observed, it was because he had the shit kicked out of him in the first half. And then in the second half of the season, when he had Thomas Brown and they're throwing short early on. Guess what happens in the second half of those games?
Yeah.
He's got more time because they're not teeing off. And now he can go deep, and suddenly he's hitting those throws because he hasn't had a window slammed on his hand for like 2.5 quarters early on. Exactly. And he doesn't have some sort, minor form of football PTSD going on in the third quarter that anybody would have.
And that's what gets me too, Matt. Just to play off of that point, I think maybe we talked about it maybe when you were on with us before, but every one of the biggest flaws that people had that were against Caleb coming out in the draft, a lot of analysts, a lot of people that just, wanted to get the mythical haul that everybody was talking about in the trade down was, can this kid come to the NFL and not play hero ball? Well, then he showed you that he can with 20-5 and 3,500. And the next thing for them to say is, we need to see some more hero ball where he forces it. Take some more chances. This is like, Peyton Manning had 28 picks as a rookie. Can you imagine how good that motherfucker would have been if he threw 50 picks as a rookie? Right?
You imagine how good he would have been if he had more receivers in his rookie year and he didn't have to dump the ball to Marshall Faulk because nobody else could catch a ball or run the routes on. So come on. Yeah, I'm with you.
If Caleb had thrown 20 touchdowns in 16 picks, they would be vilifying him for turning the ball over so much.
100%.
That's the reason the Bears won 5 games, is because he was turning the ball over left and right. Too much hero ball. So
they continue to move the goal.
They're going to be kissing his ass in about 3 years if it takes that long.
Wait. It'll be.
We'll be here for it.
It'll be 2 years. This year is going to be something. I'm excited. The draft is going to be the litmus test for me in regards to who is making the call. Remember those NFL commercials? You make the call.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully Ryan Poles is watching this show so he understands, because that first number 10 pick is going to tell me how they are going to be doing business under Ben Johnson for me with Ryan Poles. I am very nervous about Ryan Poles, Matt. And it's just what it is. It is just what it is. Now, I mentioned you talked about Tyler Warren. The other guy was Bucky Brooks. Oh, no coincidence. And former running back Maurice Jones-Drew taking running back at 10, not named Genty. I can understand a Genty selection at 10 based on what we've seen of him on tape, right? If he's there and Ben is like, that's our guy, he's going to be the bell cow running the ball, and then maybe we mix Swift in there and use him this season a certain way. But Travion Henderson at 10, Omarion Hampton, like I said, I would stop being a Bears fan if they took him at 10. But that running back position at 10, am I right there with you in regards to Genty stands alone?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that really, if you don't take Genty early, he doesn't fall to you, and you don't take him at 10, then why are you taking a running back in the first 2 to 3 rounds at all? Because there are going to be guys in the 4th and 5th round who are going to be better than DeAndre Swift that you have now, better than Rashawn Johnson, better than anything that you have on your roster right now.
Oh, yeah.
Who could play for 10 years, and they could fit what the Bear. They can be the B back that you want, or you can get the A back that's going to replace Swift, and then eventually get a B back later on. You could probably draft 2 in rounds 4 through 7, and probably get your A back and your B back if that's what your head coach wants now, because if he's modeling Detroit and what he did in Detroit, if that's the case. It's a rich class.
How would you rank this Bears running back room right now without any? You're looking at it. You do fantasy. He's an amazing fantasy analyst, if you don't know that as well. The Bears running back room as it stands right now: Rashawn Johnson, DeAndre Swift. Who else do we have, Shay? Tyler.
Well, yeah.
Travis Homer.
Travis Homer, and then Ian Wheeler.
Ian Wheeler,
off the ACL. Yeah,
undrafted kid.
Not a great. Not it's. I mean,
if I'm being generous on a scale of 1 through 10, it'd be a 4. If I'm being generous,
generous 4, right?
A generous 4.
It's a big need.
Yes, absolutely, because Homer, you're looking at a special teams guy.
Yep.
Rashawn Johnson is a special teams guy who can be a B back if you really need one and you're kind of desperate, but he doesn't give you the high end B back caliber thing. He didn't work into that. Wheeler, no, he's and then with Swift, I mean, Swift's the guy that you need you need him to be in an Eagles situation, which is, or the Lions situation. But even you saw the Lions go, oh, you mean we can get a better version of him and we can trade him to the Eagles,
Take the Bears,
and
Cal back.
So let's go ahead and do that. That just tells you it all. I mean, Swift is a worker in terms of staying in shape, and he will make the effort, and he can catch, and he's someone who can give you open field skill. But yeah, he's not. I love that. Bring up Broadway fixes everything. But yeah, I mean, looking at now, you can probably get. I mean, here's some guys who are probably going to be in the 4th or 5th round. That if you want to replace Swift and you don't want to go up and get Travion Henderson, Rashard Smith out of SMU would be very fascinating.
Had a visit with the Bears.
Yeah, you have. I would say anyone from Trevor Etienne, Jordan James, and Woody Marks are all guys.
Jaden Blue.
Absolutely, if he can fucking hold on to the ball.
Yep.
Okay. If he can hold on to the ball, he might be he's the best of all of them. But
Matt, I was breaking him down. And if he just fumbles more, he's gonna be a hell of a back. he's gonna figure it out.
That's right. That's right. He's just gotta have more experience fumbling.
You put that in the proper context, and it makes so much.
That's what
sense,
Tom
right?
Coughlin did. Him and Bill Belichick said, just fumble some more, and then you'll never fumble again because you're never gonna fucking see the field. Okay.
Exactly.
But
remember that. I guess his saving grace is Tiki, right?
Yeah,
Tiki Barber with the
how many
high and tight, Shane.
How many since having that kind of blowout is that
Rashawn Salam had a fumble issue, and then he cleaned that up.
Unless you're Adrian Peterson, and you and you have that rookie year, and they're like, we're thinking about benching him, and the city of Minnesota was like, we are going to tear down this city if you fucking bench that dude, and for good reason. Go ahead, let him fumble because he's going to give you 200 yards on. There's exceptions.
You turn a blind eye to Adrian.
You go,
Adrian,
just sit
there and pray,
dude.
Well, we talked about it a little bit. If I'm
the football with that grip, and just then you can hold on it. If we have to replace footballs like every down because of you, that's great. Do that.
But if I'm the Bears, I'm coming. Listen, you're going to draft one, and you can get. They have those 2 7th-round picks. If there's another guy there that I like, I'll take him. You're going to get a guy as a UDFA that's going to contribute.
Yes,
and then
Taj Brooks might be a UDFA,
right? And then next, they're going to keep Swift for 2025 for financial reasons. That's it. And then he's gone. And then you can move forward with your 2 guys that you bring in this year, next year, and moving forward, hopefully. But this is the year that you can kind of revamp that room.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, we talked about a bunch of the A backs, but B backs. I mean, Taj Brooks is a B back who could be an A, B, C through Z back if you want him to be.
Yep.
You know, you can get Cam Scattaboo later. You know, maybe you have to trade up from a pick that you have, maybe to get him. I don't know. Depends on what you think. You know, other guys that fit that mix that who could be a
I
good B
love
back.
Scattaboo. Scattaboo.
Yeah.
I would take Scattaboo. Like, I don't want to lose Scattaboo. I believe
Right.
he's David Montgomery with a little bit more twitchiness to him.
I would agree. I would
And
agree with that. Just
I
not as good a
think
pass protector. That's it.
exactly he's got to work on that.
Yeah.
But as far as his football in, you have a terminology for it, I'm sure. I'm just going to describe it. But when someone is in the confines of a blocking scheme and the wave of it, this guy has the ability to find through a hole within chaos.
Yeah.
Over and over, and it happens, and then he gets skinny in it and gets out of it, and then all of a sudden he's working through a stiff arm and a broken tackle, and what should have been a 2-yard gain, all of a sudden sneaky is 7. And that kind of back, I think, is more valuable than a guy that runs a 4-3.
Yeah. And I think that in your offense, you need that right now, right away, because you have what you have in Swift is good enough to be a good A back in terms of the way that Ben Johnson used Swift in the past and used, you know, Jahmyr Gibbs. You're not getting maybe that level of quality of Jahmyr Gibbs quality, but you know, you can get that later, or you can try for one a little bit later on. But if you want a priority B back, Quinshad Junkins, Damian Martinez, you know,
Damian
Scattaboo,
Martinez.
you know,
Talk about him. Damian
Martinez is basically, he's not the same back as James Conner, but he could have the same type of career where you look at him and go, 8 years later, you're looking at him going, he's still holding off the guy they drafted in the second round, who's faster, who looks like he's got a lot more promise, because Martinez is a smart runner who can run inside zone, outside zone, and gap plays. He has a smooth accelerator to the edge and can really get outside for you. And once he builds up speed, he's terrific. I like Samson out of Tennessee. We'll talk about him too a little bit more. But Martinez also is someone who can block, and he has soft hands. He's good at catching the football, even though people go, well, he's only had like 32 catches in his career. Well, James Conner only had 30 in his career. You know, Jonathan Taylor only had a few, because when you're a bell cow back in an offense that leans on that, guess what happens? They like to run like outside zone with the play action, and really they're not throwing to the back when he's going out to one side of the field.
Right.
Okay. That just
Plays
doesn't
aren't
happen.
designed in college for this type of stuff.
Yeah. And he was at Oregon State doing that all day. So this is a smart, powerful running back who has more speed and burst than some people think. So he's a good back that I think can be, maybe he's never a league leader, maybe he's never a superstar, but he's that guy that.
How many catches did Ronnie Harmon have at Iowa?
Right.
Probably not a lot.
Right.
Then he goes to the NFL, becomes one of the most dangerous catching freaking running backs I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's why you study the film and not the stats.
Exactly.
Because if you
say that one again, please.
Yeah,
the church organ right now.
But I mean, there's guys like that. There's guys late that could be gems. You know, we talked about Brooks, but there's also guys like Kyle Monangai of Rutgers, who he may not be your long-term guy, but listen, when you watch this guy run, he's in that Ray Rice, Isaiah Pacheco kind of school, with the same school there, because when you look at Monangai, he's not super fast, but he can find his way out of the forest, and he can find the quickest way out of the forest. He's agile. He is powerful. He has good contact balance for his size. I mean, he's 5'8", 211. He's a little spark plug, but he's one of those guys that when he gets to the second level, they're going to need a second guy to tackle him. And if that second guy doesn't wrap him up, he's going to be another 5 yards downfield, and someone else has to come over there. Next thing you know, there's three guys who try to wrap him up with the first guy, and now you're 30 yards downfield. He's that kind of determined runner. So you can get that. Mario Anderson Jr., who I mentioned earlier, he's also 5'9", 208. He played at Newberry, and then he went to South Carolina. And at South Carolina, I'm watching this dude outrun SEC cornerbacks and safeties who have angles on them. And I'm thinking, we're definitely going to be talking about Mario Anderson, in 2025. Next thing I know, he's in Memphis, and no one's talking about Mario Anderson. He didn't even get to the combine. But I'm watching him, and he reminds me of like an upper class version of Devonta Freeman, who might even be, he's never going to hit D'Angelo Williams level skills, but he's a better version of Devonta Freeman, if you ask me, in a lot of respects. And that dude with a decent blocking scheme and outside zone was very good, and he can catch. So you've got guys like that, even someone that people don't like much, but I don't think as bad as Phil Maffa, Clemson, 6 feet, 234. That dude's got a little bit of that James Conner, Leonard Fournette thing going on.
I've probably been higher on some Syracuse players this year than I have in my entire life, but you're talking about guys that can catch.
Yep.
Quint Allen.
Sure.
Is that dude.
Sure.
He's higher on my board than a lot of it. I like LaQuint Allen.
But that's the thing. This is what we're talking about with this class. And Matt, you and I talked about this. You're talking like 18, maybe even 20 contributors in the NFL at one position.
Devin Neal from Kansas.
Yeah. How about Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt? 5'11", 204, runs a little bit like Aaron Jones, or
that's the kid from Arizona, right?
Yeah, who played before that at New Mexico and Alabama State. He's a little bit of a wild child with some things, but he can run gap or zone. He's athletic, he's creative, he's got promise in the passing game. I think he could become a high-end contributor. He's got to be maybe a step more patient with certain plays.
Matt, I've brought this up a bunch of times on here, and Phil's laughed at me with mock drafts, and I get down to like pick 233 or 240 for the Bears, and I take Donovan Edwards almost all the time.
We're reading each other's minds, because I was about to bring him up and say, hell, Donovan Edwards
all fucking day long.
He had a good year, and if you put him in a gap scheme and let him be the gap guy, he can catch. His best year, I mean, he's a Tevin Coleman type, okay, a Darren McFadden type, but as long as you're not asking him to run zone, and you put him in round 7, he's fine.
He's the reason they won the national championship. If you watch that game,
and he
truthfully.
played, and the year he had that
set
big year,
the tone.
Yeah, he played on a partially torn quad all year. That big year he had. That's a tough dude. I had a strained quad once, and I remember the doctor I tripped over something early in the morning and landed on my keys, right on my thigh, and I go, oh, that's gonna hurt tomorrow. And then I go walk to the airport in Atlanta. I'm walking around, it's starting to stiffen up a little bit, and I don't know any better. And I sit down, and I'm like, this thing hurts a little bit. And then we get into the plane and the pressure, and I'm like, ooh, this is really hurting, and I couldn't even get up, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I waited and they had to wheel me off the plane. I was having a meeting with some people, and which was pretty fucking embarrassing, but got wheeled there and had to go straight to the emergency room. And I remember the doctor going, okay, so lift your heel up off the thing. I said, I can't. He's like, no, okay. I need you to listen to me. Let's be straight about this. This is obviously a wise ER doctor who's been through this a lot. And he just cut the shit. He goes, listen, I need you to lift this thing off like if you scream and it only comes a centimeter off the table, that's okay. Otherwise, you've got a torn quad and we got to perform surgery. And I was like, okay,
let's do this.
Let's do this. And I did. And he's like, here's some crutches. Here's some pain meds. I don't want them. Here's some crutches, and just you'll be fine in a week. He said, this is a softball injury. People have this injury, and then they're on their beer stool after the game, and then they get up to go piss, and they fall down and piss themselves, basically. So that's what this is. He goes, but if you had a torn quad, you'd be fucked up. And imagine, and that dude is playing on a torn quad at Michigan and having his best season, at least partially torn. Still, that's bad. I mean, so tough, dude.
Tough dude. What about DJ Giddens of Kansas State?
I can see why he could be good. I legitimately do. Like, I could see him being like a more explosive Melvin Gordon type of back. But there are so many things with his game where I'm like, will you turn the light switch on? Like, it's like there's too many things with his blocking, to his decision making, to his patience. It's just not there. More often than not, there's something missing with every run that I go, this could be better. And I don't feel like I'm nitpicking it.
It's rare for that switch to be turned on at the next level, too.
That's right. You need to be a thermostat player.
That's a big pass on that player for me.
Yeah.
As Cody Trough is asking, is there one guy that would fill who he wants, a punishing guy that's going to go after people, that has that kind of personality? Is that Ollie Gordon?
I think Martinez does that well.
Yeah.
I think that Scatabo absolutely does that well, to the detriment of his health sometimes.
Judkins, you got to put in there.
I think Judkins can do it. Absolutely, Taj Brooks can do that. Those are guys that Manon guy can do it. Even
what about Caleb Johnson?
Caleb Johnson, he can do some of that, but I'd say he's a little more finesse. But he's good. But I would say those guys definitely are in that category. Gordon can, but I'll say this about Ollie is that he's kind of like a poor version of David Johnson before David Johnson learned from Chris Johnson. If you put him in a gap scheme and as we'll cue Mel Kiper, if everything's perfect, he's going to be great. That would be Ollie Gordon in those cases. But I watched Ollie Gordon 2 years ago and was not impressed with what I saw, because right now he's one of those guys that when it isn't perfect or it goes wrong and they throw the lemons at him, he just self-destructs. So he short circuits his decision making, his footwork short circuits. He looks tentative. His hips are not aligned with his pads when he's taking on defenders, and suddenly he's wasting all of that beautiful athletic talent that he actually has. And so, it's kind of like someone who, it's like a 6'6" quarterback whose arm platform is like 4'7" in terms of the height. It would be like something crazy like that. Ollie Gordon ends up playing like, instead of a 226-pound back, like he's a 186-pound back.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. And Tootin from Virginia Tech, again, if he can hold on to the ball and if he can get more nuanced with how to set up blocking with certain types of plays. But I think that he's got a better chance to become something than Gordon, and there's more ways for him to win than Gordon. Hell, Khalil Mullings, who isn't anybody that I would go out of my way to talk
Michigan.
about on a high level, but he looked pretty good. I mean, if you want him as a B back, if you get him in the 7th round or something, he could give you something. Jarquez Hunter's a fun one. I mean, there's so many guys. Harvey. He's Tariq Cohen with maybe a little less discipline on gap plays.
Pass.
And he likes to cut back, and he is otherwise he can be a smart runner, but it's more zone and draw right now. The gap plays, it's hit or miss, but he has some of that Tariq Cohen opportunity there, but also he's got to hold on to the ball.
Woody Marks,
smart. I think a dynamic runner who can catch. He's in that mix of guys like Trevor Etienne and Jordan James, who can
very good friends with Caleb Williams, by the way.
There you go. I mean, he can catch out of the backfield. He's very quick. He could eventually give you what people hoped DeAndre Swift was going to give people. And we'll talk Dylan Sampson now as another one, just for the ask. Sampson to me is close to a top 5 back in this class. He's Jalen Wright was the lead back last year for Tennessee.
Loved him too.
Yeah, but I think Sampson's a smarter decision maker.
Do you want to know who my number 5 running back is?
Yeah.
Dylan Sampson.
There you go. See, you love him. To me, he looks like he's a guy that could possibly have a career like James Cook is having right now in Buffalo. He could be that guy who, he doesn't have the speed of Wright, doesn't have the size, but he's actually better contact balance, smarter runner with what he knows how to do, and pretty good pass receiver. I think there's a chance that he could be one of those backs that you may call him a scat back, but he can do a little bit more than that. I mean, like Austin Eckler could do a little bit more than just be a scat back. He might start his career that way, but his peak years might be a little more than that.
You're breaking down the running backs very well. Who would be your top running back other than Genty? So Genty's one. Who would be, okay, this is the next guy?
If I'm just going by how I traditionally do tiebreakers, it would be Quinshon Judkins, because he can run every scheme. He's got the power you're looking for. He can mitigate losses. He has good one-on-one routes against linebackers in the underneath game. And while he can improve his catching a little bit, it's nothing as a major problem. He's certainly someone who has the burst to be able to get into the secondary. And then once he gets into the secondary, he's fast enough to flip a field and then even win some in the secondary. So, he can be a bell cow for you. I really like his game. I have, in a lot of years, he'd be my number one back, and it'd be, there's a lot of years that would happen. Taj Brooks would be my number 2 if you give a little more weight to third down skills, because I think Brooks has potential to be an even better blocker than Judkins, and he's already a better pass catcher right now. And that dude, as I've talked a lot about around on the air in the past couple of weeks, I nicknamed him Lemonade, because when they, defenses throw a lot of lemons at that offensive line, and he really mitigates losses very maturely, very Frank Gore-like, Josh Jacobs-like, little Le'Veon Bell in there in terms of the quickness and the short area change of direction. That acceleration is good. Very just mature runner who can run around you, run through you, break tackles, move the pile, but also he's got that great bend at the second level to like alter the axis of pursuit when you get into that second level and they're coming downhill at you from an angle, and he can literally cut right across their faces like Matt Forte did in his prime, or Adrian Peterson did in his prime. And while he's not going to take it to the house like those two did, he's certainly going to get you another 15 to 30 yards doing that. And so I just think he's
at that on tape. There was one play where he hits the hole and corners are safety's coming up. He comes all the way around, then comes back.
Yeah.
He took all these different, because he was playing off of their angles. He has very good football geometry, I call it.
Absolutely. And so it's such a great point. So you can run gap, duo, inside zone, off tackle, outside zone. If you can't get Cam Scatabo early, if you can't get him early and you want to wait till the 5th, 6th, 7th round, then you can. I appreciate that, Cody. But and Cody, are you the Cody Hahn who plays saxophone? That's what I want to know. There's a Cody Hahn. There's a Cody Hahn who's a great professional saxophonist.
We're trying to put a band together.
Our listeners aren't that talented.
Yeah, well, listen, well, I know, but listen, he might be one of those guys. But still, I follow Cody Hahn on Instagram. That's why. But anyway, Taj Brooks to me is, one of those guys that you can get.
There's your answer.
You can't even. I can't play my 5th grade recorder either, honestly.
No one can.
But exactly.
What about your mother, Cody? I'm kidding.
Shane's address is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brooks to me is that guy you can get somewhere between rounds 5 and 7, and you're like, how the fuck did that guy get so far down the board, and how come nobody's really been talking about him?
So the thing to me with this draft, especially, and I understand. Listen, I love Ashton Genty. I love the talent. I get it. My thing is, do you have enough of a separator when you're talking Ashton Genty at 10 versus, you'd say, Quinshon Judkins at 39 or 41 where they are?
That's a great question. It's an important one. I was asked this yesterday on a Broncos show, and I fucking hate the Broncos as much as I love my buddy Cecil Lammy, who asked me the question.
A lot of smoke around them with Travion.
Yeah, I like to joke. I like to joke that because some people were like, "You said yes when he asked the question, should we make a trade up to get Ashton Genty?" And I kind of wink and smile and say, "I said yes because I fucking hate the Broncos and I want to see it happen."
Right.
But I can see certain. To be honest, I see certain teams where I think the Broncos have enough of an offensive line. It's not great, but it's good enough that, and with the quarterback they have in place and what they can do, maybe it's worthwhile for them to make a play at that, especially with what Peyton can do with a guy like Genty. Yeah. With Ben Johnson and the way that what he's done in Detroit, if that doesn't change, they don't need to they don't need to do that. You know, there's just the history just says you don't need to go that far. I mean, listen, if you had the Bears last Super Bowl contending team, okay, and you had your choice between Walter Payton, who, you know, I'm a Jim Brown fan, but look, I'm putting them. There's no A or B separating those two guys. Okay, they just are. You know what they are. You could have Walter Payton, or you could have Neil Anderson, but you know that you had to like spend a lot less money on Neil Anderson. Okay, and you can fortify your depth on a team that's Super Bowl ready. You know, the wiser choice, unfortunately, as much as I hate myself for saying it, is Neil Anderson, because it's, you know, it's a bet you can do more with the money that you have left over than what you probably would have had to do to get Walter Payton. And I hate saying that, you know, but is that
looking at it from like a free agent money perspective more so than draft? Like if you had Walter Payton at 10 and Neil Anderson at 39,
if I had Neil Anderson at 39 on a team that's really good,
yep,
and I know that they're a contender, and they're like 1 year away from being a contender, but I just need to add try and get 2 to 3 more players. It might be a harder position to be in, and I might lean Walter Payton in that case.
Matt, about your mom.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. I love that bitch.
I'm taking Walter Payton every time.
Yeah, but you know, that's the thing. But you get the point, even if I'm dramatizing it probably a little too far there.
No,
you know,
I know.
You know, I know, Bill. It's okay. I understand. I'm trying to make a
Waldman's like,
very...
Ed Neely is better financially for you than Michael Jordan is.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Look, it's the fucking Coke and pot that you had in the green room, motherfucker. Okay. You're right. No, I went too far on that one. I admit that was a dumbass idea.
You wait till you see the next fucking thumbnail when you come back, buddy.
I'm currently drafting a tweet. Matt Waldman ranks Neil Anderson higher than Walter Payton.
I'm finding your mother.
Yeah,
my man.
Matt Waldman says Walter Payton gone too late. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no, that was too far. Yeah, absolutely too far. But you get my point. Like in a more narrow scope, you know, it's like you can probably with Genty. Yeah, with Genty, I mean, it would be great to get him at 10. And I think that if you feel like that your line is going to be good enough. You certainly made additions to it. So that's not you might feel like it's close enough to give that a shot. And if a guy like Johnson believes in him to that level, that's great. And the one thing that Genty has in common with Peyton, Brown, Campbell, Marshawn Lynch, all those guys who are or Jamal Charles or LaShawn McCoy in his prime, all very different backs. Barry Sanders, run stamina. At the end of games, even if he's had 3 or 4 big runs, when he finishes a run after working away from multiple people or breaking multiple tackles, his energy level and his ability to execute movement and tackle breaking is still very high relative to his opponents. He's like a boxer who still has a full tank or a much fuller tank in the late rounds than the guy that he's had a slugfest with in the early and mid rounds. And that's a special quality that all those backs have. And Genty has that. So if you from I'm trying, the fan in me is like, fuck, you take that back because he's probably a special back. But I also look at a lot of guys from trying to remove myself from the emotion of that and go, if you get a good caliber back like Martinez or Judkins and a Dylan Sampson later, or Judkins and a Brashard Smith later, you might end up, if you only hit on one of them, let's just say the other one gets hurt, unfortunately, or I'm wrong about the guy and he just sucks. Okay. You get one of those, you're still probably better off with what you picked theoretically at other spots. But yeah, I think if I'm going with my heart, I would probably say Ashton Genty. You want to take him at 10 if you can.
At 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
and
with you there. Because
where would you have him, Matt, when you're just talking about recent backs in terms of, Jahmyr Gibbs went 12, Saquon, and then the kid down in Atlanta. Why am I blanking on his name?
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson. Where would you have Genty versus those guys? Because I've had this talk with a lot of people. They're like, look what Saquon did, with Philly. And I'm like, well, to me, Genty's not Saquon.
Yeah.
I don't have them on the same level. And that's not me dissing Ashton Genty. That goes back to the number 1 versus number 2 debate.
But maybe the way for those guys to ask that question should have been, look what Philly did for Saquon.
Yeah.
Because look at what New York did for Saquon.
Yep.
And where Saquon was compared to where he was in Philly. Because again, with Jalen Hurts, he can occupy 1 to 3 defenders. You give Saquon Barkley that straightforward of creases to do, and he's like, I died and went to heaven. Fuck New York. Like, this is great.
That shows you how mid DeAndre Swift is, because he was also just there.
That's right. I did profiles on Swift in the Eagles showing, like, look how many defenders are sliding over to Jalen Hurts on a regular basis on these plays. It's just unfair. And that's what was happening. And that's why both, Barkley and Henry had great seasons, because they had that in them. They just needed a strong surrounding crew. I mean, Derrick Henry didn't lose anything in Tennessee. Those were 2 guys. I mean, last year I'm on air talking about Saquon Barkley is going to be on the Vengeance Tour when he gets out of New York, and that we were wish casting all year that Derrick Henry would go to the Ravens. I mean, me and Bob Harris on my show, Feel It or Fuck It, we were basically talking about that almost every week, So, okay. So Jahmyr Gibbs was my RB5 over the past 3 years, if I take all 3 years. Quinshaw Judkins, RB3.
Wait, say again?
Yeah. Quinshaw Judkins. RB3.
Over Gibbs.
Over Gibbs. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, again, this is based pre-draft and based on range of fit. Now, if you're going to tell me I need a back who's an A back who's going to do the stuff that Ben Johnson wants him to do as an A back, then you're taking Jahmyr Gibbs over everybody but Ashton Genty. Okay. Maybe you'd take Bijan Robinson over Jahmyr Gibbs in that case, because Robinson is also lightning quick. So I would probably say if you're gonna grade the type of backs who can do what Gibbs can do, then I would say Gibbs would be 3, Bijan would be 2, Ashton Genty would be 1. If you're going to ask me what Bijan Robinson can do and look at it from that perspective, then I would say that your Jonathan Brooks, when healthy out of Texas, would be on that list. You know, and I would say that Quinshon Judkins would be on that list and Bijan would be on that list. But, you know, Bijan's 5'11", 215. Ashton Genty is D'Angelo Williams like. Would you know, you saw D'Angelo Williams, old D'Angelo Williams in Pittsburgh as their back, and you saw what that guy could do. Ashton Genty, to me, is a D'Angelo Williams type of back, or a J.K. Dobbins when healthy.
When healthy, right.
Or when he was healthy, could have been. So Ashton Genty is my top back, and honestly, he's a tier above Bijan Robinson. We'll see if it translates that way, but he's a kind of in a tier all of his own for the backs in the past 3 years. And Barkley, and you know, for me, if you included the Barkley class, I'm still taking Nick Chubb over Barkley, you know, at his best, and I would still probably say that Ashton Genty has more upside than either of those guys. And I love Nick Chubb. You know, I think I'd still probably want to take Chubb just because I think he can handle a bigger workload between the tackles. But
so you would look at, you would say more upside with Genty than even Saquon?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would. And the reason is that Saquon in Philly, Saquon's gotten smarter over the years.
Yep.
Okay. And we're comparing when they came out of college.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's how I'm thinking, not thinking Saquon in Philly now, but Ashton Genty and Saquon when they came out. Saquon had a lot of little errors where he tried to play hero ball as a runner. And he was immature with decisions in the red zone and the black zone. And he tried to bounce things that he shouldn't have. And he did that early in his career in New York. But I would say that Genty's a smarter runner. And so that's the thing. I know people say that, but people said that when I said,
could that be a product of
Barkley?
Could that be a product of his environment being in Boise? And if you want to beat Boise, that's where you have to, you know what I mean? Beat Boise, you have to stop. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're saying that he's smarter,
even better. That he's
no. I'm not saying it as a negative. You said that he's a smarter runner, and I said, isn't that like a product of what he's?
Because every defense
had to face every week, because every team coming in is, we got to stop. We have to stop.
They had to stop. They had to stop Saquon, and he still.
Oh, no. But they also had more talent with Saquon than Boise had.
Yeah, I would just say that it's it might be a product of that. It just might be the overall skill and how he's learned. And again, we are separating. We're at such a narrow margin of error, but I'm
with you on the Bijan thing. Genty to me over Bijan Robinson.
But it's, you know, honestly, like, the people have these grades I'm looking at. These are all guys that I would pick Bijan 10th. Absolutely. 10th overall. I'd be thrilled with Bijan Robinson there, you know, but that's the thing. Like, you know, it's like comparing Walter Payton
and Jim Brown,
or LaDainian Tomlinson at the top of his career with Marshall Faulk. Okay. You're going to have your favorites, but if someone says, I'm giving you LaDainian Tomlinson, and you're going to be thrilled, you know. And now you might feel like an asshole when they say, well, you could have had Marshall Faulk and you may have loved Marshall. You might throw a temper tantrum for all of 5 minutes. And then when the season starts, you're going to be rooting your ass off for LaDainian Tomlinson.
Do you remember the other big back that was in the LT draft?
Oh,
ended up going around because the Bears were in on both that year. That's the reason I'm bringing it up.
Who it is?
Yeah, Deuce McAllister.
Oh yeah, that's who I have actually as
Deuce is loose.
Not unreachable comparison for Savion Williams if he plays running back.
Wow.
That's my
Fabian.
that's the high end. Probably will never get there. If he's better than Cordero Patterson, maybe we can start talking about how he's loosely compared to Deuce McAllister.
Yeah.
But I'm
so just
yeah.
I'll finish what I was alluding to, and I know Phil's heard it 100 times. The Bears had a deal in place on draft day, so that would have been 2001. They had a deal in place to move for LaDainian Tomlinson. Bears management up above Mark Hatley nixed it.
Millhouse.
Ted Phillips nixed it because of money reasons. With the bonus and all of that.
Well,
then
go ahead.
That got nixed. The Bears stayed where they were. They took David Terrell, the wide receiver from Michigan. Then they worked the end of the first round, had a deal in place to move up for Deuce McAllister because he dropped. Ted Phillips nixed the fucking deal because he didn't want to pay 2 first-round picks.
They don't meddle, Shane.
The money, yeah, but they don't meddle. So the Bears' third choice in that was to stand pat, and they drafted Anthony Thomas out of Michigan.
There you go. Well, look, I remember that draft because I also remember seeing that, Atlanta decided to trade their picks to San Diego.
Yeah.
And that gave them the chance to get Michael Vick.
Yep.
But what they gave up was the opportunity to do what San Diego did, which their GM Butler got, which was they got themselves LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the new GM came into town and told Marty Schottenheimer to go sit down, and we're gonna get rid of Drew Brees. And after you really actually did do a lot to develop him and put Phillip Rivers in town there.
Do you remember the position player that San Diego also got in that deal?
No, I'm trying
to
remember.
Michael Vick trade.
He
was a fun player.
Was he the wide receiver that
Tim Dwight?
Dwight. Yes.
From Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa.
What's that movie Draft Day where the dude?
I'm watching it with Tate.
Ryan, what's his name? The return man.
Yeah, Ryan something. I fucking want him.
Yeah.
And, something like that. That's kind
Putney.
of
Ryan
Putney,
wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Want Putney.
Gotta get Putney.
Gotta get Putney.
Yeah, that's Tim Dwight. He was Putney.
So if he dropped to 10, David Putney, yes. If he dropped to 10, Matt Waldman is the general manager of the Bears. It's a pretty easy pick for you then.
I'm pretty good on that if I like my O-line, So if I feel like my O-line can go, this kid's going to take a little pressure off that O-line, and he's going to make things a little easier for that passing game. And you're just going to make – and I think that's probably the pick you got to roll with. Yeah. I'm not worried about that one. But yeah, and especially with this line, because it's probably good but not great, Saquon might be a little more frustrating if he was a rookie right now, and he'd probably tell you that too.
Yep.
But he's gotten better and better and better, and obviously he's one of the best backs in the league.
Well, the separator is Genty just absolutely runs through tackles, whereas not that Saquon doesn't. There's more finesse with Saquon than there. I mean, Genty is literally physically, angularly getting through tackle contact.
But you break it down so detailed, Matt, like his contact balance. Where do you have Genty is
it's strong contact balance for sure. It's not the best in this class. But he's so good at creating angles where he's never hit directly. And that's where like Jamal Charles was a guy I very much considered. Yes, greased hog. Jamal Charles, but greased hog hitting you first. And then you trying to grab in reaction to it. Exactly. Walter did that well. So did Jamal Charles. I still think about, and that's exactly it, pinball. Anybody, when you make contact first as a runner, the defender has to react. And if you're quick enough, as he's trying to respond the next step with his reach or grab,
you're already making a move away from it. And that's what Ginty does so well. He's got the curvilinear speed to bend around people at a high rate. He's got the hard cutting ability if you need him to do that. He can give you Dalvin Cook. He can give you a little Jamal Charles, but he's mostly, to me, D'Angelo Williams in his prime, which we didn't get to see because he got shackled to Jonathan Stewart in Carolina, who was a pretty damn good back in his own right. But D'Angelo Williams really is that he's a he's a power back in a little body but never really took huge hits, could catch the ball and destroy you in the open field if you needed to be. And he played for fucking ever, and he went to Pittsburgh, and he if those guys didn't get hurt, might have been better. Cam or Judkins in terms of contact balance. Well, I look at contact balance in two different ways. So, I look at direct contact and indirect contact. Direct contact to me is when you're downhill facing someone coming downhill at you. You don't have to hit them in the chest to say that's direct contact because you don't want to hit someone square in the chest. But it's got to be where you're both coming downhill at each other. Whereas indirect to me is when a defender's coming at an angle and hitting you on the side, high or low. And both of those can be more difficult for some people than the other. So for contact balance, direct contact balance, I would say, I have it with, let's see, where am I at right now? Let me look where I have them. With Quinshawn, it looks like I have Cam better. He's more in a starter tier. Yeah, Scadaboo's at a starter tier for me because he consistently was able to win against linebackers and defensive backs, and he could generate a stalemate with hits against defensive linemen. Okay. Whereas with Quinshawn Judkins, I had him as a committee level guy who could win against linebackers and defensive backs, but I didn't see him even generate a stalemate with defensive linemen enough. Now, in indirect contact balance, Cam Scadaboo had a star caliber indirect contact balance, and Quinshawn Judkins was, he was at a committee level. So star caliber to me is you win against all three levels of defenders. Committee level is you win against two. How poor do I have? Yeah, there we go.
A 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
4 out of 10. Generous 4.
It was it's better than the second version of Cats that my wife made me watch because she likes Pootie Tang, and then movies like that to torture me through every once in a while. So she's like, yeah, I haven't seen you all year, so you're gonna pay the price. You're gonna sit through this dumb fucking movie.
Cats 2.
It was so bad. She's laughing and watching the commentary. It's so bad. I need you to watch it too. So you like me that much that you need me to share your pain too. That's what's going on here. Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Pootie
Tang.
I remember that. Yeah. I'm just in love with Cam Scadaboo. I just think he becomes the definition of a football team, and especially you look at the Chicago Bears traditionally as well as the city, and I know Shane have said this, just watching his tape, I don't know your process, but I take you into my process. I want it to be blank. I know what I saw at the bowl game, I know, but now I'm going to watch the tape. I want it, no bias, let's just watch it. And I felt myself, out of all the backs, it was Scadaboo that kept me going, oh my fucking God. Getting out of trouble, standing up, like you said, defensive lineman, where he shouldn't have any business, and somehow his desire and determination, as my father talks about, the most important trait is determination. I just kept saying that, Matt. Those players that just absolutely are culture changing. That's what I look at when I see Scadaboo on tape. That's why I have him as my number 2 running back in the draft. Him and just his ability to catch and do all the things that you want out of a running back. I just, like I said, David Montgomery, everybody knows how I felt about him as a player. Just that determined runner that every inch mattered to him.
Well,
that's how I coach.
When you tuck Cam in at night, please make sure you call him Cam and not David, okay? You know, because I know you might have that Freudian slip from your last girlfriend, okay? But, you know, just make sure you say his name 3 times to yourself quietly in your head before, you know, after you've had the wine and the soft music and the, you know, and the
I got it up.
You know, but I agree with you. I mean, the thing is the difference for me is his grade right now is that he's got an 84.3 on my board, and 84 is on the cusp of being an instant starter, which means that you put him in a lineup right now and you just minimize what he doesn't do well, pass protect, or you hope that he improves quickly, which is possible. And he can give you starter production. If you fix the 2 things that I have the lowest grades for him on, which is he improves his ball security a little bit. He's not below the level that concerns me. He has enough ball security ride the ride. But if he tightens it up a little more so it can be starter level, and he fixes his pass protection, which really needs fixing, he would be at least an 87.3, which would have him as running back 4 on my board. Or if you technically use the ties that I had with my top 2, my second and third running back, he'd be running back 3. And that's just if I'm talking just like reasonable gains. Like if he becomes a star blocker, he'd be RB2. You know, if he becomes he just takes it seriously and really learns how to punch, he'd be running back 2. So the running ability, like you said, what you want from a ball carrier, it's all there. He's as good as anybody in this class, not named Ginty, you know, and
correct.
You know, so that's great. As a running back at the position and all the things that some teams might ask him to do, and might force him to try and do it early, and then they might get pissed off if they don't, which is a dumb approach. You should know what he is. But if that happens, then you might have some more obstacles in his path that slow his progress down. But that's the kind of shit I got to account for when I do this stuff. So when I look at Barkley, for instance, and his score, you know, I'd have to go back and look at my database to go, as a pure runner, would I take Ashton Genty over Barkley or Nick Chubb? I'd still probably take Nick Chubb over both of those guys, because Nick Chubb is probably the smartest running back I've ever scouted, and more powerful, and also almost as quick and fast. And honestly I honestly think it's a shame that he didn't have a quarterback who had found himself, because I thought he was the best running back in football, period, during the time that he was healthy. So that's hard for, you know, probably if I were thinking about it more, it would be Chubb. It'd probably be Chubb, Barkley, and Ginty, or Chubb, Ginty, and Barkley. I'd still might stick with Ginty over Barkley, you know, pre-draft based on what I saw, but I'd have to go back and look.
This guy, Oracle of Hallis, how many touches per game justifies drafting a running back at 10?
I would put it another way. How much opportunities would Ashton Genty have to create in both the ground game and passing game for his teammates because of what he does with whatever touches he gets to help the Bears win? And I think that's a better ROI than how many touches, because I think that's a little bit more myopic, and what can get stat modelers in a little bit of trouble, because they don't look at the bigger picture of the game, which is how does he stress defenses pre-snap to have to, just like I talked about Jalen Hurts stressing defenses that can make, you know, chicken Swift into chicken salad, you know, in Philadelphia. And then what happens now when you have Barkley and AJ Brown can be sitting on the bench reading books, and staying healthy enough so that you go in the playoffs that you can fucking destroy everybody. That's the difference, even if it's not in yardage and touches.
Matt, I got your
clip that, please, because
I get your RSP
every shot at Stat Boys. Thank you.
Yeah, I get your RSP every year. But where were you on? Just looking back, where were you on Roma Dunze last year? Do you
wide
remember?
receiver? I think I had him as wide. Oh, I can look right here. I do have that recent one, and it's so funny that I can't remember from last year.
Oh yeah,
after
but
doing
that's...
this stuff, but it's so much shit. So it's like I had him as wide receiver too. I had Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 1, and he was the highest graded receiver I had since Jamar Chase.
So a healthy way to look
too.
A healthy way to look at this, if you're a Bears fan and looking forward and adding playmakers and skill position players.
Muck had him as a 7th round pick.
Yes, but you could be moving forward with Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, and Ashton Genty as your trio of playmakers, skill position players. That's
pretty good,
pretty fucking nice base to go forward with, as long as
you don't want Tyler Warren in there.
Oh,
That's kind of like having like Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, and Curly Howard.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Curly's awesome. Okay. And his dance style is the shuffle is fantastic, and it's great for a laugh, and he's a comedic genius. But it doesn't quite fit what you're trying to do on stage. So I think that Odunze, I watched him and I watched him last year and thought, people are like, maybe he's never going to be. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He looked fine within that shit show. The routes were good. He was working open. He made good catches. If you just had opportunities, he was fine.
2 balls early, touchdowns. One against
no.
Minnesota, and then there was another one.
Oh,
that wasn't the worst. The biggest one was in there getting mollywopped in San Francisco. And he caught the touchdown pass. They're down by, 20 something. And he, midway through the 4th quarter, he catches a meaningless touchdown. And he started dancing and everybody lost their fucking minds.
It is what
part
it
of
is.
growing up.
It is. I mean, Philadelphia Eagles fans will never forgive Deshaun Jackson for that rookie play where he dropped the ball
before the goal line.
But it is what it is. I think Deshaun Watson acquitted himself just fine. Deshaun Jackson.
We've kept
Deshaun Watson acquitted himself.
Yeah.
You can see how tired.
There's no way to massage that one, Waldman.
You can't massage that one.
He acquitted himself. Nobody else did, but he acquitted himself just fine.
The gloves fit. The gloves fit. Because they must acquit.
We have the title for the end of the show, the Waldman Happy Ending. Thanks for coming, folks.
Bill Wagner, thank you. $20. The Waldman Keep It 100 episode before Grown Man Christmas is always fire. I would pay real money for a Matt Waldman TTNL therapy podcast.
Well, I think we gave it to you
that tonight.
Yeah. We had a little bit of that. Well, that's good.
Get your money back up. Where's the $200?
And look, I'm holding myself accountable for that dumbass idea of trying to float Walter Payton on a Bears show. I'm not really. I'm still blaming whatever I snorted before the show in the green room, but that's okay.
It was a classic Coke bottle. With real sugar.
Yeah.
So Matt, before we let you go, who is your Khalil Shakir of the 2025 draft?
Do you want
the Bears do need another wide receiver.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me what kind of receiver you think the Bears need, and I'll give you
an Amon-Ra St. Brown type.
Okay. So good question there. Who could be an Amon-Ra St. Brown type in this draft? And a little bit deeper down the road.
Yep.
Okay. So I think I'm going to give you a few. If we want to go simple and just say we need a We need a slot receiver who's really quick, who's going to get open in the middle of the field and make the first 2 to 3 people miss, but you just don't want to see him get hit. It's Tez Johnson of Oregon, who's about the size of Gerald Ice Cube McNeil of the Browns. But and people will be worried about that. But I looked up Gerald Ice Cube McNeil, and he had 5 seasons where he only missed 3 games, and the 3 games he missed was during a Pro Bowl season where he had 1,300 return yards in an era of football where safety forgot. You know, there was no safety whatsoever, player safety whatsoever in that era, and he only missed 3 games. If you want a kind of a rawer player, but who could develop into that kind of CeeDee Lambish type of version of an Amon-Ra St. Brown, not as good as CeeDee, but very good tackle breaker, good speed, decent hands. He can have a little bit of mixed results as a route runner. Is Chimere Dike of Florida, formerly of Wisconsin, who ran a 4.34, and a 6.82 3-cone drill, 38.5-inch vertical leap. It's kind of in that Santonio, poor man's, maybe a middle-class Santonio Holmes. You know, that could be a version of that. If you're looking for maybe a great route runner who can give you a little bit more, he could be a focused Dante Pettis, type of player, is Kanate Mumfield, who isn't very fast, but he's got the Brandon Lloyd, Antonio Bryant, Dante Pettis kind of ability to win the football. So
you broke him down this weekend.
Yeah,
with our
that was
Patriots.
that was my fave guy from Pitt, Phil. Remember, I was talking to you.
Yeah,
that was
old man.
If you want more of a Wayne Krebet type,
there we go.
Oh God! Now Phil's automatically gonna love him. Sure,
this guy right now.
The guy that you guys probably know who are up in the Chicago area and can go, what the fuck? But like, I like Daniel Jackson of Minnesota.
The Minnesota wide receiver.
He's a strong route runner, and I think he has the toughest skills at the catch point of anybody in this class. Like, he's the guy that can take a hit and just get up and go, that's all you got? Really? Like, I think he's that tough of a pass catcher. He's lightning quick, great acceleration, just not super fast. He's a 4.55 guy. But it's enough.
You had me at Krebet.
I know I did. I know.
He ran a 4.52.
Yeah.
Krebet did. So.
Yeah. So those are some guys that might fit that late.
Where are you on Torrey Horton?
I'm not. That might be a guy I might have missed on, but I just did not like what I saw. He reminded me of Van Jefferson, who I also didn't like. Just he's productive, but I think his routes aren't uniform. His hands aren't uniform when attacking the ball. And, you look at Van Jefferson and he's got a lot. He's one of those guys that just is going to float around for 10 years and occasionally give you a good play.
Right.
But like, he's on a different team every 2 years for a reason. And it's because he's got hands like his dad. And, and his dad just dropped passes and had poor technique. And it's a shame. If he had good technique, he might be Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I just don't know if he really has that kind of thing. If you're looking for bigger players who might give you a little more boundary type of work than Amon-Ra St. Brown, Anthony Armstrong, who we profiled on Saturday on your show. Certainly he can run the dig routes. He can also work the boundary well, and he'd probably be a decent big slot if you wanted to use him that way. I think those are guys that fit. I would probably stay away from a guy like Ty Felton of Maryland, who, man, this is just going to be wrong, but it's late and we don't give a fuck. Okay. He's like the butterface version of a wide receiver. Okay. He is. And I hate to say that because you look at his.
Do you want me to say it? I can do it.
We'll let you punctuate it.
Your mother is a cunt. Butterface. Great. Yeah.
But his routes are fantastic. He sets things up really well. He's got good tools in terms of how to release at the line of scrimmage. And then at the catch point, there's more ways he fucks up than there are good. He's got more techniques for bad catch technique than good catch technique. And so if he fixes it, suddenly you're looking at maybe a a Jameson Williams type of player with better route skills. But the catch point stuff is just you just look at that and it just makes you sick because you could see what kind of player he could be.
Where are you on Agbuka?
I like him, and he'd be a good fit in that role. I see him as in the Puka Nakua, Jermaine Curse low end. He can give you some deep stuff, but generally you want him running across the field, slow developing plays, wins after the catch. He's a solid player who should have a good career.
Burden the third, I have highly rated. Number 2 receiver in this draft for me. Could he be that role here?
If you get Burden with pick 39,
yes,
is that what you have?
That's what I'm getting.
If you get Ginty and Burden, I think I might have to become a Bears fan. I mean, seriously, like Burden's the best receiver in this class. I know people think it's Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan, but Burden can do all 3 positions. He's like Brandon Ayuk in that a sense. He can be Brandon Ayuk if you want. He can be Rashee Rice, a better version of Rashee Rice.
Yes.
He can play flanker or slot. You can put him on special teams if you're crazy. If you like the Browns and their dumbasses and put Nick Chubb on special teams in his first year and Carlos Hyde out there. Yeah, sure. Okay. But yeah, Burden runs good routes. He separates well. We showed it on the film that he separates late in the plays with savvy that a quarterback like Williams they're going to be on the same page and they're going to make some plays that you're just going to be like, oh my God, they've got telepathy. And then after the catch, there's nobody close.
Right.
Statistically, there's been nobody close to him after the catch. And then even if you listen to like the people who just looked at the stats and who watched film based on the stats, they would tell you that his junior year film or 2023 film was the best film of any wide receiver in the game that year. In 2023, I think Burden would have belonged in that high-end group of receivers last year. And if you want to know that list, I would just say Malik Neighbors. Let's see, the past 3 years, I have Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. 4th.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, I was, last year I said, Neighbors over Harrison's 8 days out of 7. And after we found their fits, that was definitely going to be the case. And you could see that even, I had McConkey as a top 15 fantasy player last year in June, because I was like, this is where Harrison's at. This is where McConkey's at. McConkey's playing in an offense where they lead with the big slot.
Yep.
So, that it may seem weird, but that's what the film shows you.
I had McConkey so high, and we were getting a lot of criticism, and I was like, the tape never lies, bro. The kid is just a dynamic separator at the stem. That's how Corbett wins.
Yeah,
that's how the best of them win.
Yep.
If you could do that, this dude Burden, the way he separates at the stem is just, and then like you said, his ability to run after the catch.
Yeah, and if Isaiah Bond falls and it turns out that he's right up for countersuing or for suing his suing the person who alleges that he's assaulted her, if that's if the truth comes out that he's exonerated from that, and it turns out that he's just a little bit of a dumbass, like a lot of young athletes can be who are stars but can mature, and you just look at it and say that's all it is that he's got to mature and he's got to be wiser about the company he keeps. If that's really what that is, but he falls to like the 4th or 5th round, he could be T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah. There you go.
And I'd rather have T.Y. Hilton.
He was the top 30 for Chicago.
Yeah.
Have you looked at my boy Chisholm?
I have. He's he's got good feet. He certainly can run in the open field well. I think he catches the ball pretty well too. My big question for him was that I didn't see the the athletic ability that I thought Cooper Kupp had when I graded Kupp. He had excellent feet and hands and the ability to kind of work through contact or work away from it. And I felt Chisholm was better at working away from it. I saw him. My ultimate comp for him was Amon-Ra St. Brown as like my top end comp, but it's the one that I think isn't going to be realistic for him to achieve. I think he's more aiming to be what people thought Sterling Shepard might become, or had reason he could reasonably become, not what he might become. Because what he might become would have been Amon-Ra St. Brown. But Sterling Shepard, I think, was
Sterling Shepard was going to be
something
special too.
But Chisholm's aspiring to be what we've seen from Sterling Shepard, I think.
So Matt, real quick, we'll just 2 more names here that the Bears have been tied to, and then we'll get you out of here.
Yeah.
Kyle Williams, who I'm a fan of out of Washington State, and Dante Thornton from Tennessee are 2 guys that the Bears have.
Thornton's a big fella.
Yeah. Thornton, I've joked that like he's got speed and height, very compelling.
Yeah.
How he attacks the football is the issue there. It's a little bit up and down for him. And it puts you in the idea of like Christian Watson in terms of how he attacks the ball sometimes. And that can be hit or miss.
Remember Devin or Roma should do. Former Bear.
Yes. There's
Auburn.
a lot. I think that's
Tiger.
Auburn is that. Auburn is that school that I like to joke that like they have some really good athletes and tough dudes, all of that kind of stuff. But Auburn is also that school where Alabama probably jokes that, well, that's where all the guys that couldn't get in Alabama wound up, and then they all get pissed off with each other and have great football games, But Auburn's kind of like that. Auburn's like that brother who's always getting in trouble and not fulfilling their potential. But when you have to face off against them, you're nervous because you know that they're a little crazy and they're gonna give you a little bit of everything that they have. So Thornton, the speed and height are compelling. I think that he's good enough to be a 4th receiver or a 5th receiver on your depth chart right now, and maybe he can grow into becoming what he shows athletically. And then the guy that you mentioned, Kyle Williams. I think he's a contributor level player right now if you need him to be. And I think that's what he needs to be right now. Because I'd say his high end potential is like Chris Olave. Okay. But because he's got the speed, he has the excellent skills after the catch. He has to refine how he attacks the football. He's up and down as an attacker of the football. It's kind of like like if Cortland Sutton were Steve Smith or Chris Olave, he'd be, if Chris Olave had Cortland Sutton-esque hands, then that would be Kyle Williams right now.
But if you put him in a trio with DJ Moore and Roma Dunze, that's pretty good gig.
And especially if you can get him in the third on early day 3.
Yeah,
or midday 3. Yep. Yeah, why not?
You've said it all tonight, Matt.
Awesome.
Anybody complaining about not enough Waldman tonight, you got it all. You got the Coke, you got the it's just so slick and skinny in a hole.
Yeah.
Waldman's
Nobody's
hair
ever
is all
called
the
me
way
skinny
up
in a hole.
A lot of women like it thick.
Listen, I'm married nearly 20 years. I think I'm doing okay.
What?
Yep. There you go. Only face my wife could love, but that's But
RSVP, the rookie scouting portfolio.
RSP.
Sorry.
Yes.
RSVP to the show and get the link to get the RSP.
See, I wore these 2 fuckers out.
You did.
Yeah. Well, I texted him. I'm like, let's not keep him the normal 3 to 6 hours that we normally do on Wednesday nights.
But kept him to 2:23.
Yeah.
He came in at the opening bell. So he's been here all night.
It's a joy. I always like doing these shows with you guys, and I got to get you guys on my shows. And do that. That
absolutely.
was, I just always
I'll drop the C word from my vocabulary. I promise.
We won't swear on your show.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I might give you a minor set list, but I really don't give a fuck. I tend to I curse on my show too. So I'm not, if I'm on a football guys show, that's a little bit different because as we joke, we've got the sorry Joe type of thing from there. But yeah, that beyond the Arctic Wall shit that you had going on.
We got over the wall into the new city.
Listen, I mean, my wife says that's what my boundaries are like, is like a person that everybody thinks you're like, she's like, everyone thinks in our marriage I wear the pants and you're just like, just go along with everything. And cause I've got a strong personality and leadership and all that stuff. And they just don't know, and I try to tell my friends that like, you have these wide boundaries, but when you it's like a border wall along the wall, north. And that's what she always says, like a border along the north, where it's like it says in 1,000 yards, warning in 1,000 yards. There's some sort of like scientific testing going on. And then when you get within about 100 yards of past that sign, you see a little yellow sign with a bullet hole in the smiley face, and there's like animals running for their lives, like in the opposite direction. And she's like, and that people don't see that, very often. So, but so when you start talking about the Arctic Wall, I started thinking, that's kind of like how my wife describes me. So there we go. So we had a good show.
Yeah, it's always a trip when Phil starts talking geography. It's always fun. You should have been on the show when we had to let him know that Vietnam wasn't in San Francisco. Man. That was a whole different show.
Don't even listen to this guy. He's always yelling at mom.
You guys. I mean, I nearly passed out laughing like so hard. I think that your producer was just like laughing his ass off because of the shit that you guys were saying and how I was reacting. My dog came in to check on me because he thought I needed to be revived.
Is dad choking on something?
Yeah, exactly.
It was a great time talking draft. Yes, he's going to come back during the draft to look back at the Bears pick. So whatever day is best for Matt, he's always welcome to come on. Shane always brings up that moment where the Bears are on the clock.
Fucking Bayless.
Bayless Jones. And this is the kind of authenticity that we respect here at TTNL because we turn to Matt.
Yeah.
And Matt goes, well, it's a good pick if you like a guy who drops everything.
Yeah. He's not a bad, if you're looking for a guy that's got some speed that can't catch the football, I guess he's your guy.
That was it. And can return kicks occasionally.
Yeah. I was like, oh fuck.
Had 8 fumbles.
When the positive is that you're old enough to rent a car because you're 25 as a rookie, that's your positive, and the RSP, that's never a good thing.
Stay away from guys that love ferrets and snakes.
Yeah. Jesus.
Michael Haynes and Bayless Jones.
The worst.
Christ. Well,
Bayless.
Matt, we will see you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You gave us a lot of time from Saturday. And if you're not a patron, become one. TheTapeNeverLies.com. Shane always puts in the rookie scouting portfolio in every show.
Every week.
All you have to do is hit the link when you're asking, what the hell are they talking about? I got to get this book. I will tell you, as far as skilled players in the draft, you're not going to find anything more, not only in depth, but I say authentic. So it gives you the opportunity to see every angle with your eyes visually while you're reading this in-depth analysis like nobody else.
And you get links to tape so you can see a lot of what I talk about. So if you're a visual learner, as Greg Braggs called me and told me after you told me what was going on, he called me up to have, and he was like, he's like, this was really, he said, what I love about this is that I'm a visual learner. So looking at the links was helpful. And he said, once I live in a cave. So once Shane showed me how to do the bookmarks, I was rolling.
He called me. He's like, dude, I don't know where the fuck to even start on this. I'm like, good Lord, dude. Yeah.
Braggs has always been just show up to camp. Then I learn what new Bears are. Now he's having to learn well, he'll yell at me. For the last couple of years, he's been very involved in
He's
the
getting better.
draft.
Angelo, do you remember Greg Braggs?
No.
things I'm gonna have fun talking to him about tomorrow. In 15 minutes, I'm gonna go. Yeah, you need to talk to your buddy Shane. He's been chirping. He's been chirping about anatomy.
Tell him that you're on with Phil and Shane and that you met his mother last night. He'll know exactly what you're talking about too.
Yeah, we'll see if he laughs.
He will laugh.
Yeah, I met Barb. Barb was on with Shane last night when I was on Keepin' It 100.
Hey, good job.
Is it true that Shane grabbed your mom's ass? I'm just asking.
Yes, it is in Chicago.
It's a true story.
Yes.
He can't handle himself when you ask him that.
Listen, I'm not going to out Greg's mom, but when that happened, that is true. She whispered into my ear, and this is true. Greg's wife was there. She's like, we can make this happen, but we just can't tell Greg.
We got a bigger strip.
There it is, folks.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much,
best
man.
every time.
Hey,
God
man,
bless
it's a
you.
pleasure.
I
You
love
guys
you,
take
bro.
care. We love you.
He's
Absolutely.
the best. The great Matt. We can keep him on here for another hour.
Yeah.
I could say, Matt, what show are you watching now? And then he'll have to answer that, and then we'll be down the next world. We're going to hit these super chats and then get out of here because we got a lot of stuff coming up.
So I don't know if Isaac saw, I think it was Isaac that had the other one in there too. We'll address that. Polls with the help of these coaches is redeeming himself. Still a lot to do, but is getting what needs to be done. TJ and Kyler extended show rewarding passion and ability. Love you guys. Have a great show. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. You want to, it's important to reward your guys that are producing on the field and a big part of the locker room. Listen, I think we're all Jaquan Brisker fans here, but listen, we're just being honest. Kyler Gordon 100 times out of 100 is the guy that you're giving the extension to over Jaquan Brisker, because Jaquan's got to show that he can go a season and be healthy and give you 17. And
as well as do his job well.
Yeah, no,
it's not
exactly.
even just
he
about
hasn't been
staying healthy. He hasn't been what you drafted in second. And I was so happy we got Brisker.
Right.
But he hasn't stepped up.
George, I tell jokes on live on air. Yes, that wasn't true about Greg's mom. I was having fun, believe it or not.
Phil, did you see
Jared Perry?
Kelvin Bakes. There's Jared Perry, man.
Yeah, he said.
I figured we know a few things about tape. If he's not high on the board, then they're not watching tape and recognizing the truth. I saw somebody else on here talking about, I heard Kelvin Banks is on the ground so much. Where? Who'd you hear it from?
Yeah, and
where's the tape of this?
Is anybody reporting that he played almost the entire season with a severe ankle injury and then re-aggravated it against Texas A&M? Is anybody else saying that? No, they're not, because that is also the truth.
Does anybody else fight for Kelvin Banks like our network has?
Yeah.
And if he's picked at 10, there'll be several fucking fraud boys that flip-flop and talk about pancakes, saying they knew it all the time. They've written the story, whether it's going to happen or not going to happen. Fact of the matter is, I have said it. He's Shane's best offensive tackle. He's Big Steve Edwards' best offensive tackle. He's my best offensive tackle. He's Coach O's best offensive tackle. This wasn't preordained or talked about in some meeting at TTNL. It was because out of all the tackles we saw, he clearly was that. he's on the ground too much. If there was, I would be the guy yelling that. Like, his agent isn't paying this network. There's no hidden agenda here. It's about what the tape says is the gold. That's it. Now, how he ran, he might not be as fast as Membu. Anyway, but you know what? Who else thought he was the best offensive lineman? The SEC, the coaches in the SEC, the players in the SEC. He won the Outland, the Lombardi. He won the best blocker in the SEC. The same conference with Will Campbell. Now, all of a sudden, Mel Kiper's talking out of his ass about how he was the best possibly prospect in the whole draft, but he had a season of regression and he didn't talk anything. Where? The Georgia game? I have the whole game. There literally Ewers creates 2 sacks himself in that game. And they don't, the statistician doesn't even put it on. It's pathetic, the narrative I've seen with this kid. I don't know why these things happen in 2025. I don't know why, but I think it's just as simple as watching the tape. Rand Carson was talking about it, how much he fits the Chicago Bears. And I predicted on this network, I predicted 4 weeks ago, Jared, that by this weekend, Easter weekend, there'll be about 80% of people saying Calvin Banks is the best. They'll come around that way. And
right.
I don't know who's watching tape at ESPN 1000, but it's not.
Yeah, it's no different than the Darnell Wright ascension, because when we were banging the drum for Darnell Wright, the Bears were originally at 9, correct? And then they moved back 1 slot with Philly and did the swap there. But there was a point, you can look back at that draft, there was a point where people were mocking Darnell Wright in round 3, and then he moved up into round 2. And then I still remember on draft day, go watch Daniel Jeremiah. His reaction to Darnell Wright. He didn't have him up there. But listen, don't forget what Ryan Poles said on 1920 Football Drive. What did he say to his one guy? You have to block out where other people have these guys ranked. And I know there was reports out there that he was talking about Mason Graham and things like that. I happen to not think that. I don't think that was about Mason Graham at all. I think that very well could have been him talking about Genty. People say you can't draft quarter or running backs in the first round, and that's what I happen to think. But
you can't a reflection. Ben Devine has cut. I don't even know who Ben Devine is, honestly. I've just gotten Ryan Cox has tried to fire me up, and he does a great job, and it motivates me to get amped up for every show. But he's had every guy going to the Bear. Now it's Calvin Banks. Some people think Banks is a guard, Dad. What would you say to that?
I think they're assholes.
Yeah, and just here's a couple of, then we'll get to the rest of the super chats, but I just want to address a couple of these. The Sean says Ben wants his Laporta. I have a weird feeling he'll pick Warren at 10, but if you listen to the show,
watching the show,
but
bro.
He's not Laporta. He's not
Laporta. Sam is Laporta. Fannin Jr. You want your Laporta? Harold Fannin. There's your Laporta.
And then the other one, Noah T, that I starred because, when we were talking about being, critical of Ryan Poles, and he said, well, haven't you liked all of his top 10 picks? But here's some breaking news. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into being a general manager than a couple of picks in the top 10. It's your trades. It's your roster construction. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's your coaching staff that you've had multiple swings at. Right. It's
center position.
Exactly.
Free agents.
There's so many things. Yeah, it's Come on. It shouldn't be that
It's
hard.
not
It goes
a
way
it's
beyond
not
top
that
10 picks.
hard.
I don't think any of us have sat up here
Who
and complained about Caleb or Rome or Darnell Wright. None of us have. I'm on record as saying last year I loved Rome Odunze. I would have drafted an offensive lineman there. That was my thought process. And I loved Bowers too. Phil said that. And I know Phil had Rome Odunze as his wide receiver 1. Phil came out and said last year, I would have taken Bowers, but I love Rome. Those are the decisions, and we'll see. You know, hey, listen, if the Bears go out and draft Tyler Warren at 10, I'm not going to be excited about it. Am I going to root for Tyler Warren? Is it going to affect my analysis moving forward? Not on Tyler Warren, it won't. It'll make me more skeptical of Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham, and it will put a seed of doubt in my head about Ben Johnson.
I'm with you, yeah.
Him calling the shots. It will, because I am just not there. If I'm deciding between Genty and Tyler Warren, I'm taking Genty all day and twice on Sunday. I'll tell you this though.
Me too.
If I'm deciding between Trevion Henderson or Omarion Hampton with Tyler Warren at 10, I'm taking Tyler Warren over both of those guys at 10. I'm just being honest.
They're in a room just for Noah T and everybody, and those are the odds. These are their decision. Like, as a fan, all of us, as analysts, all these broadcasters, whether they believe it or not, or have a rooting interest in them or not, you know, some analysts or some broadcasters admit, I fucking live or die. I love the Bear. And you can see it in how they analyze it.
Yeah, and this is a good one too from George. I would go Banks, because I have more of a separation between Banks and my number 3 offensive tackle than I do between Genty and my number 2 and 3 and 4 running back. That's me.
Well, I'm going back to what you said, and you get in this huddle, and the Bears, Jeff King, Ian Cunningham, and Ryan Poles have decided, all right, these are our 3 guys. Warren, Henderson, or who was the other one you said? Or Amari and Hampton. These are the 3 guys.
You take Warren.
Based on that, the fact that they got to those 3 would drive.
I'm not drafting Omari and Hampton in the first 2 rounds.
Omari and Hampton is not. He is not picked for me. He's not a Bear. Cross him off.
So
him
Phil,
and Membu are crossed off my list.
Real quick before we move off of George's thing, Genty over Banks. Where are you on that?
This is honestly something that keeps me up at night, because I know exactly what Waldman said. So I'm not a stat boy. I know what a running back does.
All right, let me phrase it to you this way. You know where I'm going with this.
Banks is my favorite thing.
Genty and Ursery, or Banks and Scatabo.
Banks and Scatabo. So that's what I would have to do. But if I was the GM, that would be what I would do. And I'm talking about personality. Those are football players, all of the choices. Genty and Ursery is 1B to me. If you came out with that, I would be fucking ecstatic too. I would understand the plan. If it was me, though, drafting, I'd do Banks and Scatabo, because I know what Banks is. The Chicago Bears have not had since Jimbo Covert. I can't even believe the shit show that is the local media in Chicago. And when I was talking about a shithole, I wasn't talking about Chicago. I was talking about
Not
the
city.
media.
The media, yeah. The way that the Bears are covered and the
way the Bears
radio.
are covered on the radio, television in Chicago, not
Let's
Chicago. I love
get through
Chicago.
these super chats and we'll get out of here. Phil George, $4.99. I know Phil is high on Scat and Fannin. I am too, but what about the Bears? Have they even met with these guys? No top 30 visits, right? I don't think that the Bears are up to, what have they announced? Like maybe 18 of them, 17, whatever.
17?
And it doesn't mean, I think that they've drafted guys within their top 30 visits, but it doesn't mean that you do it every time either. I mean, the more information other GMs get on you, and I'm talking in terms of Ryan Poles and how he drafts, stuff like that, you go into stealth mode and you do things a little bit different. There was a report out there that one NFL team has all of their top 30 visits are with teammates of guys that they're interested in. And then they get these guys in there and start talking about different things. So don't
There's
get
only one
infatuated.
choice at 10. You look at 30 visits. Okay, they brought Michael Williams in, and they brought Stewart in, and they brought Stewart's another guy. Just don't see it. Scorton, we showed you on tape. Scorton over Stewart. It's just natural ability, just football acumen on tape. Like all those RAS scores just check a box. They don't tell you production on the field. It's just and it's just what it is. You want to hopefully both of those marry up, but not every time do they. You know,
and this is another thing too. And Chris, I'm not singling you out and just saying, but everybody defaults to that. And in this draft, especially,
there might not be no trade back.
Right. Not it's I'm just going to trade back and accumulate picks. Who's the other team trading up for? That it takes two to tango. That's why you can't just default to I'm going to go here. And I mean, are you going to, if you have no trades, are you going to drop back 12 slots and lose all the value of that pick? You can't. That's really bad business. It takes two to tango. So we'll see. Maybe the Bears do have an offer, but just to default to that, you can't, because you don't know. It all depends on, and quarterbacks are going to come into play. They're saying that New Orleans has done a ton of work on Jackson Dart, but Albert Breer prefaced it by saying that doesn't mean that they're taking Jackson Dart at 9. Maybe they will, but he's not so sure they do it at 9. They could be on the move to try to come back up and get him later, depending on how it goes. But
I'll address this. I would love to watch film with Dane Brugler, because it's just not there.
And we brought up the ankle injury too, Phil.
He's not. It's not true. So that's the thing. I don't care. It's just a fun thing. It's like spends two. It's something thrown in there in draft speak. No one has been able to step up and show this at all. If it was a problem, you don't win the Lombardi Trophy. Tell you that. It's just pathetic, to be honest, that you throw this kind of stuff and it's a mistake by the editor or whatever. I watched every game of Banks now, and it's just not there. It's just like me saying, I will take Mike Green over Abdul Carter every day.
Yep. And we're in
every day, right?
I have Abdul.
That's not the public
patrons. No, my top 5. I have Abdul Carter as my number 3. And again, that's not a 1 year project. I'm projecting in who I think is going to be better. I'm not talking about just a rookie year. I don't think when I look at Abdul Carter, I don't look at some dude that's transcendent. I mean, is he Myles Garrett? Fuck no. He ain't Myles Garrett.
He's not Micah Parsons. I think he's a good football player. I do.
Yeah, he's good, but I don't have him number one. He doesn't have the
Mike
motor. He
Green.
doesn't have the motor of Mike Green.
Mike Green could be a pick at 10 for me. So that's the reality. I'm not saying it was just you, Oracle of Hallis. It was
But
and they're
that's
getting it from Dane Brugler.
Right, but
and
the point is the people that aren't going and grinding through the tape. No, you don't even have to grind. Just looking at even one or two games, they default to, oh, Brugler said that, so I don't like Banks. I have people in my DMs every single day that bring regurgitated information from somebody else, and then that miraculously becomes their analysis on a player. They've done zero work other than to listen to Mel Kiper or to Daniel Jeremiah or to Dane Brugler or to Matt Miller or Field Yates or Albert Breer, any of these guys. And listen, they're way more connected than I am. But I also know that Phil and Ivan and myself and Cars and a lot of our patrons are watching tape. It's no different than last year when we were critical of Greg Gabriel saying that Caleb Williams was a different player after the Notre Dame game. Wasn't the same player. So what did we do? We put the tape up of the entire, not the broadcast footage. We showed you every single play. And if you want to base it on stats after the Notre Dame game, I still have the card sitting right here. Caleb's stats after Notre Dame: 1,612 yards, 124 of 185, 67%, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 rushing touchdowns. Should have thrown more picks. You would have been more respected, right? Fuck out of here. It's nonsense. You want to know why shit like that gets said? Because you were told something, or there's something about the specific player that you don't like he was crying to his mom, or he has a man purse, a handbag, or a pink cell phone case, and then that defines everything about that player for you moving forward. Everything is through that lens. And that means you're shitty at your job. And I'm not singling out one person. I'm talking about a lot of people that analyze that way. And it's fucking disgraceful. And it happens more times than not.
You know who didn't spend a lot of time on the ground? Kelvin Banks didn't. The only time he spent time on the ground is when he knocked someone to the ground, which was a hell of a lot. And the reality is, you can say whatever you want, Jamari. Y'all fucking smoke it. Shane has I have Carter number 2. Mike Green is number 1. And if you were a patron, you might see actual footage to show why. That's the thing. We don't hide, and there's no cherry picking. We're running through tape, game after game, no less than 4 games. You have to have 4.
But this is my point.
I went 8.
Jamari, and again, I respect you, and that's fine. But that can't be a rebuttal. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Tell me why.
It's not because I'm smoking.
Tell me why.
I'm just saying. I'm not afraid about being wrong. But there's a lot of analysts, people that do what we do.
Williams over
I do, and it's based off
Abdul Carter doesn't play the run very well. He's decent, but turns his shoulders a lot.
Who's got more upside, Phil? Abdul Carter or Mikael Williams. Maybe you'll
Mikael
disagree with me.
Williams, yes, Mikael Williams, but
And I agree.
I don't, I wouldn't draft for upside, but the foundation of Mikael Williams, I know who plays the run better. Mikael Williams.
Yeah.
How much did fucking Kirby Smart hurt Mikael Williams? A hell of a lot by his fucking rotational.
Oh, Jamari, you just proved that you have not watched 1 second of tape. You just proved it. You read that from somebody.
That's the
just
number one
patently false. It's like his number one
attribute.
I mean, come on, bro. Please. This isn't the place to be bringing nonsense because we'll address it.
Bring Dane Brugler's
Mike
Beast
Green,
book.
not physical. That means you've never watched a single second of tape of him. It's just that we're just being honest, bro. And I'm not trying to be a dick.
Olivia Newton-John's more physical. It's number one attribute. You done defined it. Calvin Banks, not a good pass blocker. Jesus Christ. The number one attribute. You say he's not.
But that's the thing.
Like to do muck.
You can't.
What did he say? He said I wanted to star it, and the chat was going so fast. It was Scattaboo is a great pick in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Oh,
it is. God. It's just, I mean, come on. Yeah, now Mikael Williams sucks against the run it's just whatever. It is what it is, man.
He's just playing a game now.
Go to YouTube and watch your highlights and come to your analysis that way. It's fine, man. It's cool.
But I'm excited about, obviously we're on the precipice of the draft. Easter Sunday coming up. This tomorrow night, you're going to be getting a patron special. We will put the rumors that Mason Graham isn't good. He spends too much time on the ground too. And we'll take a look at Mason Graham and our defensive tackles from Michigan will make an appearance on our patron draft mob show, where we actually take the tape of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and we show you the truth. I have 7 games cut up so you can totally see the full picture, and there's no cherry picking. So the reality of this season so far has been we will stand on the 41 guys, Shane.
Yeah.
That we've broken down.
But wait, there's more.
Exactly. But we will break down even more to get you, the Bears fan, prepared. Then tonight you throw in a master's class with one of the masters in regards to Matt Waldman. I mean, you spent obviously the frozen wall of running backs was showcased tonight, where he went a good hour and a half talking about almost every running back that could be drafted in this draft.
Yeah.
And free agents, and then some wide receivers. If you're not a patron, Matt was on our show, this patron show this past weekend, sharing tape with us in regards to all these wide receivers that he thought would be later round fits and early round fits, like Burden, and he showed you the kid from Pitt, Mumps, and a bunch of other guys, kid from Arkansas that the Bears actually met with. It's funny, like literally, 2 days after. Oh, the Bears are meeting with him.
It's got a couple more here, Phil. Isaac, this is the one that I was talking about. He was asking $5. Hey, Matt, I know I've mentioned it here before, but your thoughts on Hunter Wohler as a potential fit in the Dennis Allen defense. So just for people that don't know, Matt Waldman breaks down and analyzes the skill position players on offense, and that's it. So when you do his RSP, you're going to get quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. You're not going to get offensive linemen or anything on defense. That's everything that Matt Waldman does. And I think a lot of people just assume he's, and when if you buy his RSP and get into it, you will see nothing like it. It's over 1,400 pages on a PDF file. And it's hard to even describe. It's bonkers the amount of information that you get that he puts into that. It's a testament to Matt and his mental fortitude and just grinding, day after day after day after day doing this.
1,253 pages, Shane.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, it's he's had other ones that are above that. So, but
Shane, long snapper, late round.
No, not there. Break any down. Cygnus, $4.99. Sorry if it's already been mentioned. Just now joining. What are your thoughts on Albert Breer predicting the Bears picking Tyler Warren? He did mention him as a potential, but he came out today with his most updated information and
what
said,
I'm hearing, Shane.
Yes. He said that if Mason Graham and Ashton Genty are off the board for the Chicago Bears at 10, he thinks they go offensive tackle and gave you a name. And Phil, what was the name that he gave at offensive tackle?
Well, Dane Brugler calls him a guy that spends a lot of time on the ground.
Yes. His name was University of Texas offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. And if you've been watching and listening to TTNL for a long time now, you're very informed on him.
In fact, I would say 90% of our patrons do a mock and pick him because they've been informed. And I'm proud, like what Matt said, like you're lucky to have a loyal fan base. Like this.
Jamari, if I was you, I mean, at this point, with you just obviously looking for attention because you're just being dumb. I said part of the analysis is projecting. So concentrate on the food that you're making and maybe give football a little break because you're making yourself look dumb. Your excuse for saying that Mike Green wasn't physical was your excuse that you put in the chat was that you were cooking. That's the lamest fucking excuse I've ever heard in my life. My 3-year-old daughter wouldn't use it.
His dog ate his homework.
Yeah, my dog ate my homework. Oh, yeah.
Shane,
cooking these yams.
The Matt Waldman
cooking these yams.
theory.
Mike Green's not physical. Cooking these yams. Fuck you talking. I mean, come on, dude. You got caught with your hand in the cookie jar and fucking slapped.
Guys cooking at 11:30 at night.
Yeah,
bro.
I was cooking. Please
cooking
stop.
Yams.
Yeah.
Who cooks yams at 11?
Shamari does.
Yams.
Just be honest, man. You didn't watch tape on Mike Green. You're relying on other people. You don't like Mike Green. That's fine. I don't give a fuck. Don't make shit up. Just be honest.
Shit up, bro. A lot of guys are pancakes in the summer. I had pancakes and that number one.
Yeah.
But then things changed.
Yeah.
So now I'm more of a waffle guy.
Yeah. It's like,
but he'll be back to pancakes. Come
Ashton
April.
Genty ain't good. Fuck, I'm burning my toast. Please.
I was talking about somebody else burning my toast.
Yeah, fuck.
It's funny. Oh my god, I love
this semantics.
He's
9:30. That's what he's worried about.
He's in the
right.
Is he in mountain time?
Yeah.
He's mountain.
Yams are good any time of day, Jamari. So.
Well, there you go. 9:30. Hey, I appreciate, man. You're cooking.
Yeah.
You just ain't cooking in the football plates.
Yeah.
You gotta You gotta honestly become a patron. I think it'll help you out.
I could do a full Thanksgiving fucking spread for 40 people and watch tape of Mike Green and realize that he's fucking physical. And the yams would be fucking glorious.
Riddick is like, I'm watching at work, and all my coworkers think you're Jeremy.
Yeah, Jamari Riddick.
I love Jamari Riddick. That's my boy. Oh my god!
Oh, don't get us started on Riddick. That fucking guy,
Lewis.
That fucker doesn't even eat. No, Jamari.
Oh,
Jamari Riddick doesn't even eat
Jamari.
yams.
Jamari's grinding. He's listening to the show at work. Shout out to Jamari Riddick and his workmates on the overnight schmooze here at TTNL Pillow Talk. Cooking recipes with Jamari. Jamari from the West Coast.
Oh, that's great.
Mike Green. Best attribute, Jamari. Write this down. He's way more physical than Abdul Carter and Abdul Carter's entire whole family. That's how physical Mike Green is. No, in all seriousness, when you pop in the tape of Mike Green, it is something that I think a lot of these analysts are skipping over because of the off the field stuff. If the Bears took Mike Green at 10, I completely would understand it based on the Holy Trinity.
If Mike Green drops down the draft boards, it's likely for something that they found out off the field.
Correct. Mike Green in a normal draft might be taken first overall. It's that much. It's so, I mean, he takes Josh Simmons. He takes the entire Ohio State line and starts showing them.
Phil, I've listened to you make fun of Lance Zierlein and his analysis on some of the players. Let me just read the overview on Mike Green and tell me what you notice. High energy pass rusher with productivity and a method of play that should translate to the next level. Green displays a natural and instinctive rush, utilizing loose hips and a series of moves and counters that can open doors with force or finesse. He's extremely physical, with notes of violence in the way that he attacks blockers in both phases. His explosiveness allows him to penetrate gaps, play around and through the protection edges, and change direction quickly to finish in the backfield. He relentlessly presses forward, but can run out of gas due to his hot running motor. Teams might wish he was heavier and longer, but he's willful, skilled, and powerful with the ability to create enormous matchup concerns as an edge rusher on the next level. Ding. Yams are done. Show's over. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yes, it was a great show. Anybody wanting, not Jamari Riddick, Jamari's going to have a cooking and football show that he's going to put out on YouTube.
Yeah. And Jamari, we never said you said that. We were making fun of you saying that he wasn't physical. I mean, it's like
he
saying
can't
that
play the run.
Yeah.
Is what you also said. Were you cooking then as well?
Yeah. It's just you got caught, bro. It's fine. It happens.
Oh, let it go. Take a little advice from Disney.
The next thing is
go.
The next thing up is he'll call us goofies or something crazy.
Go.
Which I'm sure probably if I look back in the chat, he already did, but it's fine.
Come out with your own show. Let it go. You goofy mofo.
Jamari, how many games have you watched all 22 of Mike Green? And then we'll end the show. Just be honest.
He has watched none.
0.0.
Can someone make Bullets gives me an idea. I can't even get it out. It's funny.
Look who's back. Samo, welcome back.
My boy Samo. Samo didn't say dumb shit like that.
George, hit me up on Patreon and we'll set something up for you.
Set it up, George.
We're
I was
running out of
hoping
time.
we'd get the Mike Hall mock draft. Bullets hasn't done his fucking mock draft either. He's so fucking. He's got PT. He's got what we call mock draft SD. After
Something like
Woody
that.
Pay, he has not put his hat in the ring yet.
Bullets
boxing.
Yeah, we'll see.
I told you George put his hat in the ring. He texted me.
Oh well, DM me and let me know. I can't just go off a text from Phil saying that you want to do a mock draft. I got to schedule it.
DM Shane, bro.
Yeah, DM me, and we'll go from there.
Dudes fucking out themselves in football. Look at Jamari's latest.
Huh?
This is the best. Because he can cover both sides of the field, Jamari. He can do it all. It's a one-man game, bro.
Oh, you mean
Marshall.
Ohio State outman Marshall?
No.
That's fucking weird.
No, are you fucking kidding me?
So Jamari,
how did Mike Green
the answer is Jamari
stop the national champions by himself?
Here's the answer. Here's the answer. Jamari has watched zero tape and he just ran to the stats to be look what they gave up here. Yes, Mike Green was the sole reason, Jamari. You fucking uncovered it. It was all Mike Green. So fucking funny.
It's the gift. So, some people don't like it.
We've watched it, Jamari, and we've showed it. You have watched zero, bro. Zero.
We have watched it and we've showed it. Just ask a patron like George, corn planter. James Weston will tell you. James Weston will tell you. It's just that's what we do. We actually do it live. I know you're a Patriots fan. I think he said that he's not a Bears fan. He's just a Patriot fan. But become a patron and make yourself smarter for the draft. And that was my comp, Samo. When I look at Mike Green, I see Khalil Mack. That was the exact comp I said. And everybody should know how much I loved Khalil Mack.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe to Patreon as soon as possible. Love you guys. 100. We love you. I'm sorry that Jamari has turned to what all cowards do. They start next. You'll be saying how much you could bench press versus how much we could bench press. How many girls you got versus how many we got. And it goes on and on. That's where you all go. And that's sad. Just go watch the tape before you start trashing people.
Up next on the Stat Never Lies, Jamari breaking down the run game versus Marshall, and a special little moment of my favorite little yam recipe. It's going to have everybody so happy, and your tummies will be filled. And on that note, Phil, keep it at 100 like we always do, right?
Yes, sir. We'll see you next Wednesday night.
Yes. Bring your yams. See you later.